Welcome to this Omnibus edition of Happy Times and Places, in which I, Toby Hadoke, accentuate the positive as I watch a Doctor Who story. My special guest who's nominated the story has chosen a favourite thing per episode. I have to guess what that favourite thing is.
Hello Toby, my name's Alex Moore and I work in locations for both TV and film. You might have seen me on Phantom Films online events presenting, amongst other things, Doctor Who's Unsung Heroes. But if that doesn't mean anything, you can find me on Twitter at AlexMoore99. The story that I have chosen is The Time Monster because, in all honesty, I've not watched it in ages, and I managed to talk my non-Whovian partner into watching it recently, so that's always a good start.
Ricardo Montalban's Dubious Undercrackers. An odd way to start, I know, but I've just edited a few of these, and every single one of them, before I start, I go, okay, so, and then the name of the episode, and I don't want to be the okay, so guy. That's just, I need to do this with a certain elan, or even a random concoction of words, and Ricardo Montalban's Dubious Undercrackers have the dubious distinction of being the first of those. It's probably something I won't keep up. It'll be as short-lived as the TARDIS interior in our first episode of this new regime of phraseology. I've already bored myself. Hello, we're going to do episode 1 of The Time Monster. Press play now. I always do that press play now. That's either, and I've done it different ways. I've had it on pause and started. That one I thought I'd enter select on play all because this is episode 1. So, you know, I'm not very good at that bit either. There's lots of bits I'm not going to. So it's The Time Monster. I've got a new camera set up as well for those of you watching the video. Hello. If you're listening to this as a podcast, there is a video version available as well. Now, The Time Monster. I've done the stock footage that has also been in Enemy of the World and Inferno. It's like a semi-regular member of the cast. I remember that I think when they were cleaning this up, this particular sequence, I think, was supposed to be. It's beautifully shot. That it's a great way to open the story, and I love that high angle and low angle stuff. That's gorgeous. But apparently this was an absolute dog's dinner to clear up. But that's a great opening for a story that when I was young nobody really talked about much. You know, the Pertwee era was, you know, the ones that were target books, which this wasn't. And then when people wrote up the target era, the Pertwee era had no bad stories. This was the official history. And then you were allowed to be a bit rude about Invasion of the Dinosaurs because even the producer said the dinosaurs weren't very good. And I remember, I'm sure even that there was a Doctor Who magazine article relatively late in the day that was top 10 turkeys, and it even said under Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Pertwee era doesn't have really any bad stories. And then you were allowed to say the Ambassadors of Death contradicted itself in the last episode, having set things up in the first. Which I'm not sure is entirely true, or any more so than any other Doctor Who stories. But Ambassadors of Death was allowed to be seen as a bit of a mess. It's one of the last stories I saw. I can't wait till we do that. I'll just be hopping about with joy. But I have to say, The Time Monster is... And so The Time Monster I watched quite late, having been a bit underwhelmed by the Pertwee era because a lot of the stories had let me down from my imagination of what they would be because of the target novels. But because I didn't really know much about this as a story, I had read the novel, but it wasn't a sort of childhood one because it came out quite late. So it wasn't embedded as perhaps some of the others. I remember when I watched it for the first time, I absolutely loved it. And then when Rob and I did it for Running Through Corridors, which is a book that is available on the internet from Mad Norwegian Press, where Rob Shearman and I had to accentuate the positive, Missed opportunity for me with the Crystal of Kronos. I must bring that. Rob and I did it and struggled. Rob particularly hated episode 5. So this is going to be really interesting. It's fascinating that this is the one that Alex has chosen. And that's been lovely about this, is that people have their different reasons for choosing different stories. Alex is showing this to his non-Doctor Who fan partner. I think that's a test of a relationship. Although I do have a friend who's made his partner and his children watch recons. I'm not sure what social services would have to say about that. So I know the Time Monster is not well loved, but it's also not sort of often talked about. And so yes, so we have Ruth is the feminist, Stuart Hyde is the comedy character. I remember he has a line in the book where somebody calls somebody nutty and he says fruitcake standard, and I remember thinking that was the funniest thing in the world. Although people I know don't like Stuart Hyde, who is played by Omega off of Arc of Infinity, Ian Collier, whose voice got a lot deeper later on, or he used. Oh no, he's got a good voice. He's just putting on a silly character thing, but he has excellent voice. Ian Collier, no longer with us, sadly. I must stop saying that. We're watching programs that are 50 years old. When I was younger, when I was 15, you could say, "Oh, he's no longer with us." It would be seen, But I still do it. I watched the Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera the other day. Oh, it was sad to see how many of the cast had gone from that film, from the silent era, Right, the Crystal of Kronos. I once got talking to a man on a train. Doctor Who follows me around, or perhaps I'm just flattering myself and I'm just cognizant of it, or perhaps I just don't do anything else other than talk to people about Doctor Who. And I got talking to a man with white hair and a beard, and I think I was watching The Curse of Fenric, or I had the DVD out because, I was watching DVDs on the train, as you can do these days, or could then. This is about 10 years ago. No, longer than that. And he said, I'm Doctor Who, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I've got the Crystal of Kronos. I think his dad worked at the BBC or something like that, and they were chucking it out, and he'd got it. Now, why didn't I get his name and address? We could have at least used it in the backdrop here. And what annoyed me was I then didn't mention it in the commentary we did for this. So then I mentioned it in the commentary for the Ark, as if the range needed me to make up for that oversight of mine. So I plonked it in somewhere completely unnecessary. Whereas I should have waited for a project like this to come along where I could mop up anything that I've left out. So anyway, the Crystal of Kronos is out there somewhere in a man's garage. I should have put in an offer, shouldn't I? It's amazing how things you don't realise until it's too late, some things, even though they're staring you in the face or speaking to you in plain English. I suppose people don't like the sort of coziness by this stage, do they? I believe episode 4, it's relatively short-lived, I know, but episode 4 is the last episode, isn't it, with the unit family. So Benton Yates, Brigadier Joe, Doctor, Master. I think episode 4 is the last one where they all appear together. So, that sort of that part of this era is losing its iron grip, but also some would say is getting too cozy. I'm going to examine that. As I say, I don't know this story as well as I might. In fact, the last time I saw it will have been for Running Through Corridors in what was that, 2009? Because I think I did the commentary for this prior to that. Can't remember. I'll look it up on one of the future episodes. I'm not looking things up. I'm determined. I will for some, but to be honest... Oh, Benton in Civvies. Oh, poor old Benton. Is that legal? Couldn't he appeal to his union rep and go, look, I've got 48 hours off. John Wise as Dr. Percival. He appeared on a list of Equity send out a thing every now and again going, we don't know where these actors are. So I dropped them a line and said, I think you won't be finding him. He's no longer with us. It's amazing how people drop off the radar. I mean, some of the people on that list, John Challis was on it. Lily Cole was on it. I mean, they don't look very hard. It's just computer says, so some people have died. Some people are no longer members of the union, about which I would have much to say, but for another day. I'm a union man, even though the union sometimes lets us down. I think we are stronger as a union, and you can't claim a tea break. Oh, he's so good, isn't he? Although he's no longer... Yeah, it's true, he does start speaking in a Greek accent and then doesn't bother. I don't care, he's so good. And he's got such a brilliant face, hasn't he? Knows exactly how to do it. Does he have to try again with Dr. Percival? I think he does, doesn't he? Oh, no, he doesn't. I wonder what made me think he didn't. No, because he actually says you're a very easy subject. And that the Masters theme. Hooray for the Masters theme. So, what do we know about the time? Well, because it's interesting, is it's credited to Robert Sloman, and it's a sort of attempt to recapture the Demons was so popular, mixture of ancient history, Atlantis even, which is mentioned in the Demons and then contradicted here, very unnecessarily quickly. Written by Robert Sloman and Barry Letts, although Barry Letts is now he didn't take a credit for the Demons, but that went out under a pseudonym, Guy Leopold. The father's names? The father, Barry Leopold Letts, wasn't he? But I think Leopold was maybe his dad's name. So yeah, Guy Leopold is father's names of the writers, or something like that. But now he just gives the credit to Robert Sloman. But he was it's interesting. We don't sort of think of Barry Letts as the producer with the all-seeing eye, but he wrote a lot of the key texts of the poetry era and also directed them as well. He directed a story a year, so he has more sort of hands-on involvement in that sense than any other producer until the modern era. The producer, writing and director. I mean, the modern showrunner writes more episodes but doesn't direct any. I was only just really thought of that. Isn't Katie Manning great? But I remember there's a picture of Joe and the Doctor doing this bit, I think, in Doctor Who: A Celebration. I remember thinking Joe didn't look anything like Joe, but she does. Her hair seems a bit straighter in that particular picture. But yeah, this is a sort of attempt to recapture the glories of the Demons. But I don't think anybody loves this as much as the Demons. It's difficult to establish why when you're talking all the way through it, but that's what I have to do. I remember actually watching this as a teenager, being amused by how you could double entendre your way through the Time Monster. I think he later dances around saying, "We've done it," doesn't he? We've done it, we've done it, we've done it. And everyone's talking about Cum Kronos. When I was a young man, that was hilarious. I don't know how far my sense of humour has travelled slightly further up the belly button since then. Now, if you're up a ladder and played by Terry Walsh, you know you're in trouble. The eagle-eyed will just go, well, he's going to fall off that. But this it's odd. Ruth and Stuart are sort of quite self-consciously characters, but quite often in the Pertwee era, the supporting cast don't. I would say, could I just see a boom then? I've got a bit of boom in this, but they've self-consciously gone for the feminist Wanda Moore as Ruth, and Stuart Hyde, the wacky scientist comedy guy. I loved Stuart Hyde when I was younger. I know people don't like him now. Let's see what I make of him, if I let him get a word in edgeways. And Doctor Who doing time, which it doesn't all that often. I've sort of contended a few times that the Moffat era, makes Doctor Who about time and timey-wimey and all that sort of thing. But in the original iteration of the show, time travel got you to the story and got you out of the story, but you didn't mess around with it otherwise because it raises too many questions and causes too many heads to get scratched. I love that set, Dr. Percival's office with the master. Oh, that reminds me. Quite often I get to the end of an episode and I've forgotten the thing I liked about it. So I've brought a pen and paper because quite often I've gone, I like that bit, and then at the end I've just grasped at a straw because I can't remember. Yeah, Terry Walsh. Yeah, they've moved a vase. So yeah, I've not. I've just sort of thrown this on blind because. Do you want to know why? Because I've been working today and I'm a bit knackered. This was on my to-do list. Yeah, Terry Walsh falling off a ladder. Look at that. It was a good idea to get the sort of stuntmen, the stunt team, involved in the show. It does give a few sort of nice set piece moments. We've done it. We've done it. Oh, and the incidental music joins in. Oh dear! And then we get a comedy hand to the head from Stuart. Oh, I like the Doctor's device that he's holding there. Yeah, that's the picture in the Doctor Who celebration. Something like that. Yeah, so I'm doing this because to be honest, because we're in a. I've been working all day. We're in a time of plague. Everyone's horrible to each other on the internet. The world's going mad. I'm not allowed to drink anymore. And so I thought I'd just try and do something positive. I'm not my sister's keeper. I do like Stuart Hyde. Yes, he suggested it. He's taken the blame. He's not totally cowardly. Oh no, the master. No, he's got his Greek accent again. He doesn't speak Greek to Dr. Percival because he knows he's going to hypnotise him. Yeah, no, it's fine. He knows he's going to hypnotise Dr. Percival, so he doesn't need to put on the Greek accent because that's quite tiring. Wanda Moore, who plays Ruth, we never found she was around. I had an Artists and Agents yearbook that a friend of mine got from a bric-a-brac, car boot sale or something, and let me have. And it had certain agents listed and certain and whoever they represented. So I wrote to a few actors that were in that book, like Richard Shaw, who's in Quatermass Experiment, and a few others. But it was just pot luck that those agents, were in that book and those actors were listed, and Wanda Moore was on it, and I never wrote to her, but I think I did give the address to a friend of mine, and I think he did. I've got a feeling he got a reply, but by the time we were doing the commentary, we couldn't find her. We think she might have gone to America. She was married to the guy from the War Games, who, when Jamie and Carstairs are blowing open the safe, and he comes in and goes, "Oh, hello," and they have to sort of distract him, and eventually they tie him. Well, goodbye then, and then he comes back and they have to tie him up. David Valor. She was married to him at one point, but there was something about America. But then I got a feeling that might have been a different Wonder Woman. Anyway, whatever it was, do you live next door to Wonder Woman? Because this sometimes happens. I've probably been on a train with her. She was probably in the next carriage to the guy who's got the Crystal of Kronos. Because sometimes it happens where you go, oh, we were looking for that person. And somebody goes, oh, I know where they are. Happened with us with the Reign of Terror when we had Tim Coombe on the commentary. And he knew we were getting people in. He knew it, and we'd got the actor who plays Soldier in episode 6, Patrick Marley, because we knew he was still about. Then Tim Coombe goes, oh yeah, Napoleon there. Napoleon, big part. Oh, it's Tony Wall. Yeah, I'm still in touch with Tony. And you go, well, what? Why didn't you tell us before? We're doing the commentary right now. So me and John Kelly actually went to Tony Wall's house later and recorded something for posterity. So yeah, is Wanda Moore your mum? Write to me at this address because she could do with being interviewed. It's a good supporting part. That's a great gab that the master gets away from greeting unit and doing all of that because he pretends he's a lifelong pacifist. That's a nice gag. I do like, that's Neville Barber, isn't it? And Barry Ashton. I'll talk about Neville Barber in the next episode. Barry Ashton, who plays his assistant, he gets... he's already done a Happy Times and Places because he's the Doctor's hand and a policeman in Evil of the Daleks episode 2. And he's Ray Lunnon's sort of aide-de-camp junior officer in Frontier in Space. But he's also he's in the moon base. He gets killed on the moon with Victor Pemberton. So he specialised in he's a Welsh actor, Barry Ashton, specialised in small parts. No longer with us, I believe. That is quite a phallic device, isn't it? I mean, it... Yes, you don't need me to explain which bits of it are shaped like cock and balls, because it's shaped like... Because it is. Now, sometimes you can spend so much time working on something and only afterwards go, that looks like a cock and balls, doesn't it? I mean, I've never done it specifically with a cock and balls, but I don't think I have anyway. But it's only when somebody else looks at your work that something... or that you do it, or usually when it's an obituary I've done and it's been published. So only I've read it 100 times. So as soon as you see it in print, you suddenly go, no, that bit's wrong. That was just a placeholder sentence that my brain skipped over and went, that's just a placeholder sentence. And I assume they're going, well, we've got the thing going around, and we've got the dials, and we've got the colours right, and yeah, there we go. And then you saw it on the screen and went, cock and balls, isn't it? Why did nobody think to say when we handed it in, when we showed you the blueprints, would it have killed anybody to say, why is the Doctor's machine a cock and balls? I've got a bit south of the belly button. Tom. So you've got cock and you've got Tom Tit. I do hope they weren't throwing double entendres and rude words in. I actually like the fact that Doctor Who is clean. I like the fact that Doctor Who doesn't have innuendo or swearing or sort of adults doing... smuggling a bit of filth in there to amuse themselves, because I think you then lose sight of the main job. I think it's good to have maybe political barbs and stuff like that. Perhaps because I've got double standards. It's okay to do the sort of humour you like, Toby, but not the other one. Maybe. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Oh, you were ahead of me. You knew that. I hated the way I did that. It's too late now. A farrago of unscientific... I like the word farrago. Yes, and Benton knows that it's through the crack between now and now. Brilliant. Benton has some good moments in this story, which reminds me about... I'll tell you about the commentary, perhaps when we get to a later episode, when I'm floundering. Benton's crack between now and now... I've got to choose decent moments. As I said, because of absorption of inertia. I like the fact, it's working again, says Joe, of the thing she's holding in her hands. Oh dear, I'm not. That's not my sense of humour. I'm not a filthy cove. There's a cup and saucer there. Neville Barber arrived with a bowler hat. I like all of that sort of, stereotypical British iconography. Because the juxtaposition of the outlandish and the crazy against that sort of stuff, I think, is more fun. The crystal is a very nice prop, and the way that it is lit, I think, looks very good. I think we're about to have a cliffhanger where you don't actually know what's going on. Yeah, come Kronos, come, ha ha ha. I like the fact Roger Delgado gets second billing. I don't like the fact he's called Master. I think it should be the Master. I'm such a pathetic person. But I do like the fact the Master gets second billing. That's really interesting to me. And Barry Letts told me that the reason that the writer got written by at the end credits is because if people tuned in late, they never knew who wrote it. So that was something that Barry did that is unusual, because normally the writer just gets credited at the beginning. Okay, so that's the Time Monster episode 1. I'm going to have to press pause with the right remote control, directed by Paul Bernard. Which reminds, well, I think I'm going to choose Alex Benton's Now and Now, and various, but I'm going to choose that opening sequence. I think that to start the story, the nice returning guest actor in the form of the stock footage from Enemy of the World and Inferno. But I love the high angles and the low angles and all that smoke. It was a very nice film sequence at the top that promised something, we don't know what. So that's what I've chosen. What has Alex Moore, my friend, chosen for his reason that he likes the Time Monster episode 1?
My best thing about episode 1 has to be the opening sequence of the Doctor's Nightmare. I mean, what a great way to start the story, and it looks so wonderfully gothic.
1 to me, because I guessed what he guessed. So opening Time Monster best bits episode 1 opening scene. Tick. Right. Well, that was episode 1 of the Time Monster. I hope you liked it. I hope you're happy. I hope this is all right. It's just something I'm doing in lockdown. I hope it's entertaining. I can't do much, so but I enjoy watching Doctor Who, and I enjoy talking about it. So if you enjoy listening to this, hurrah! What a symbiotic relationship we have. If not, I'm just howling at the moon. Until next time. Ow! Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And anything else that avoids me saying, okay, so, and then the name of the episode we're about to watch, which is The Time Monster, Episode 2, which, if you're watching along with me, and there's no obligation so to do, I'll try my best to capture what's going on for those of you that don't have a visual aid, but if you are watching, hello, hi, press play now. Seamless apart from a slight pause. I'll get it right one of these days. Hello, welcome to the Time Monster 2. I was going to bed, but I've been sleeping. We're in a pandemic. I'm watching the Time Monster. I've not looked it up. So anything I tell you is pure supposition. I'm not Wikipedia. I was thinking, though, because Barry Ashton, who I mentioned last episode, who you can see in this shot playing Proctor, died in 1978. So, less than 10 years after this. Aged 43. Which is younger than me. And it's funny, this is called Happy Times and Places in order to... It's called Happy Times and Places, and you shall watch episodes of Doctor with me, and I shall point out everyone who's died and the tragic circumstances under which they did. But Doctor Who does take me to my happy times and places, but it also, actually, interestingly, it sometimes reminds me of sad things. My granddad's funeral, which was the same week as the funeral in Remembrance of the Daleks, episode 1. Stories I watched to cheer me up when I was sad about breakup of a relationship or something. Ha! I love Bessie's arrival. It's glorious. That was fantastic. That was a great shot. I think because the speedy up bit works when it's going in a straight line more than when it's going around corners. That looks a bit pony, but that was pure Doctor Who. Just this car arriving and stopping. That was glorious. And the fact that it's that car. Lovely little choice. Things like that. Bessie is a great car. I don't know how I'm not a car person. I've never driven. But I don't know how I can have affection for a vehicle that has a personality without it being like Kit and a talking car. I would hate that. That would annoy me. Not that Kit annoys me. Knight Rider was great fun when I was younger. But, yes, they did a test to see if this makeup would work. Poor old Stuart, the comedy character, comes the old man. That makeup's pretty good. And yes, they did do a special test for that. Well, I'm going to write down Bessie arriving just in case I go, because I like the bit when that actor did that. I like Joe's yellow boots as well. Wow, they go all the way up to the knee. They're very exciting. Time Monster 2. I like Bessie zooming in. Although, under this current pestilence that grips us all, zooming is a different thing. I wonder if the person that invented Zoom realised quite how quickly it would become part of the vernacular as soon as we all got stuck inside. I am isolating because my partner is disabled and vulnerable, so we can't. We walk the dog when there's nobody about, and I do the shopping. There's a shop pretty much next door for an elderly couple down the road who can't go out at all, called Ian and Barbara. Is that the reason I'm doing the shopping for them? I don't know. I have to be honest, probably partially. And I thought we'd be doing very well under the quarantine. I'm self-employed. I'm used to not knowing where any money's coming from. I travel around a lot for work. I quite like being at home. But we've struggled a bit, and I think with your only outlets being the internet, I find the internet a baleful place. It used to be people that said horrible things just did so in the privacy of their own home and you didn't hear them. And it's a shame because I think the best of people, and I hope the best of everybody, and I think the internet focuses on our worst things. So I have decided to try Kronos to do the positive thing, which is why at 10 to 1 in the morning I'm staying up, because I haven't been sleeping, to watch The Time Monster and to try and make something positive out of that by having you join me. So hello. I've been so positive so far, haven't I? But I just didn't want to be one of... I didn't want to give the impression. Well, I don't think I do, but that it's a sort of a jolliness that comes easily to me. If anything, the opposite. And I think that's what I was talking about at the beginning about Doctor Who takes us to those happy times and places, but I think also, and all the loss that's associated with it. I'm always sad, when we look, when our heroes depart, and that's happened a lot. When I was growing up, a world without Nicholas Courtney seemed an impossibility. A world without Terence Dicks, any number of these people associated with these shows. But as we've gone on, we've lost them. Now, Neville Barber, who plays Doctor... This chap. It's a curious actor because he's in K9 and Company as Juno... What's she called? Juno Dawson's husband? No, Juno Dawson. No, Juno Dawson is an author who I know. Hello. Probably got far grander things to be doing. Linda Polan. I know the actors' names. In K9 and Company, she's coming. They're coming. She's coming. Good. They say suspiciously, and then turn out not to be the baddies in the end. So why are they talking like that? So he's in K9 and Company. Neville Barber comes back to the. Be quiet, Barry Ashton. You've already had a line. So he comes back for K9 Company, but I never quite got the hang of Neville Barber because he's credited. It might just be in the omnibus of the video as playing himself in Edge of Darkness. I was like, well, why is he playing himself? And he's a TV interviewer, but I don't know if Neville Barber was a TV interviewer. I just always thought he was an actor. And then I saw somebody proofreading a book on a train once. I look around when I'm on trains, and it said the autobiography of Neville Barber. And I wanted to ask, but I was too shy and I never did. And it's never been published, so, for whatever reason. But I was thinking, well, what's Neville Barber done to write an autobiography? And perhaps he was just autobiography as a character actor, but it never happened. So I never quite got to grips with Neville Barber. I know disparate things about him, but they don't all hang together. Nicholas Courtney has such a charm, doesn't he? He's and it needs. I know Unit is cosy, but it is a kids show, and you need the soldiers to have. To be done in the way that they're done. I think the Brigadier is brilliant. I think Sergeant Benton. I love Sergeant Benton. Frequently in the Pertwee era, the little moments of magic are given to Sergeant Benton, and I think John Levine always delivers. I think he's an actor who has limitations. And I think most actors actually have limitations, but when he's asked to do the stuff that he can do really well, he does it really, really well. And I think they write for him well. And actually, I think sometimes directors like Douglas Camfield bring him a bit out of his limitations and make him do stuff that perhaps he might not have had the confidence to do. He always takes a step up and shows a different side of himself when Camfield's directing. But I know he was very fond of Douglas Camfield, and maybe that emboldened him. Chronivores, Time Eaters. That is quite a sentence. It can swallow a life as quick as a boa constrictor can swallow a rabbit, fur and all. That's quite a metaphor. I do like this set. I covet that desk. And the Master smoking. Is he smoking? No, but he's having a brandy. He is smoking a cigar. And what was I What was I talking about when I mentioned Sergeant? But anyway, I'm sure I'll go. Oh, Paul Bernard, I was going to mention, because how funny. I don't know what order I'm releasing these in, but this is my second Pertwee story, and the first one was Day of the Daleks, which was directed by Paul Bernard, and who I think goes to town in Day of the Daleks and is really inventive. Not all of it works. There's a couple of quirks, like the cliffhanger music staying in the next episode. But there's lots of depth of field stuff, and there's lots of crossfades and sort of camera trickery with monitor screens that I think this could have done with, because this is less distinctive a story visually. I mean, we are in offices and labs, which are the sort of meat and drink of Doctor Who this time. And actually, the lighting's quite nice here, although it is also it's not quite videotape quality, is it? Because this is a reverse standards, I think, from an American print, so it has a slightly grainier quality than it would have, and maybe its stark original videotape would have been less forgiving. Isn't it interesting that actually sometimes a bit of degrading can benefit a story? Although I get the impression there's a sort of log fire going here, although that might be actually there's a flashing bulb in my house, so it might be that. But anyway, I like the lighting and the design of this office. Yeah, that was in episode 1. I made the mistake of thinking Percival was hard to hypnotise. He was actually really easy. Yeah, so Paul Bernard, because he had been a designer. But we were too late to get him on the DVD range. He died prior to that. And I think only gave a couple of interviews. I remember a Doctor Who magazine special on the Pertwee saying, that he'd left the business, and he there were directors like Michael Bryant and any number of others, David Maloney, people like that, who gave interviews to Doctor Who magazine, and I think we felt we had an angle on, but Paul Bernard we never quite did. I think he did art exhibitions in later life. I remember reading an obit for him in the Times, I think, that talked about his art. It's always promising when Benton's is on hand, because you'll get a moment of bravery or a moment of thwarted keenness. But yeah, when we did the DVD commentary for this, it was a tricky one. Actually, I did DVD commentaries for John Kelly because I was suggested to him, and he was keen to have a moderator for The Rescue and the Romans, and then eventually I did a Pertwee story. And actually, Terence Dixon, I did the Peladon ones, and Terence Dixon and Barry Letts didn't want a moderator, and were quite dubious about me being there, and I think said so quietly, weren't mean to me at all. And actually, Barry very gallantly, after the 2 days that we did the Peladon saga, actually made a point of pointedly, publicly, saying in front of John and in front of me, I didn't think we needed a monitor, and I was wrong, and so he was just very nice, but I think he'd been aware that I'd been made aware at the beginning they were dubious, which was absolutely fair enough. So he equally wanted to sort of make a public show of rescinding that dubiousness. Oh gosh, Atlantis comes in a lot earlier than I always think. I know this always surprises me because I think it surprised me when I did Running Through Corridor. It goes Donald Eccles, an actor who I think John Pert remembered he was good at making paper aeroplanes. Oh, Aidan Murphy as Hippias. Aidan Murphy is the reason the actor Aidan Gillen off of Game of Thrones and Peaky Blinders and Queer as Folk is called Aidan Gillen because Aidan Gillen's real name is Aidan Murphy. But Aidan Murphy's already called Aidan Murphy, so with Equity has that name registered. So there's a fact. Oh, so Joe better not stand in front of. It's a good job she wasn't wearing that in Day of the Daleks because all the CSO was yellow. She'd have disappeared. So the commentary came about because John Kelly didn't do the commentary for the Time Monster, and I thought, well, one person works with me. That's nice. So if ever he does a commentary, I might be in with a shot. But then somebody had ticked a column in the Time Monster preparatory notes or whatever somewhere saying the commentary has been done because when John Levine had been in the UK, he'd recorded. There were a couple of scenes in this that he liked. It does about 15 minutes an episode on this episode because Benton gets a good bit. Oh, that's better, and I recall that being really quite affecting in the book. And I think now it would probably be much more emotional, but they don't push those buttons in quite that way in the 70s, and that's fair enough. But I think you definitely go for a much more sort of genuine, emotional, psychological insight into the jolly young man being aged. Good part to play though, being jolly old Stuart and then old Stuart. And I suppose the fact that he's got that very deep voice helps lend itself to when he's older. Oh, good casting. So anyway, when they came to do the Time Monster, they went, oh, somebody ticked, the commentary had been done. Well, 15 minutes of the commentary had been done. And it was only when they'd done everything else on the disc that I think somebody checked and went, that tick, it's only a tick for 15 minutes on episode 2. And I think somebody said, well, so I think they didn't have many resources, so knew they wouldn't be able to get many people. And I think they were going to always get Barry Letts. And Marion McDougall did it, and then Susan Penhaligon for her episodes was already cutting the budget tight, and I think they thought with that scant lineup they would need somebody to hold it together. So it was a different producer. It was Steve Broster, and he rang, and I knew Steve was doing Ambassadors of Death because I'd mentioned I wanted to do it because it's one of my favourite stories. Sometimes it's my favourite story. It fluctuates. And so Steve rang and said, look, could you do it? But I honestly, I haven't got any money. So I did the Time Monster for free on the proviso that I got to do Ambassadors of Death. And that got me then working with Steve, who I'd not worked with before. So then suddenly 2 different commentary producers started working with me sort of independently. I wasn't suddenly the moderator guy. And Steve didn't always use me. Actually, he used Nick Pegg, for example, on Resurrection, and he used Mark Ayres a couple of times, but it got me in the fold. So I think sometimes my ubiquity on the range looks like I was just hanging around, and when in fact some of them happen quite independently. I love this Benton stuff. The Master can do a very good impression of Nick of the Brigadier. That's superb. But I think this is good. I've got to write this down because I loved this when it was in the book. And sometimes the bits that, although it was a Terence Dicks book, so I knew it probably was in it, because sometimes your favourite bits from the Target novels, especially if they're written by Malcolm Hulke, aren't in the TV version. But as this was a later book and it was a Terence Dicks book, I suspected it was pretty much verbatim. And I was pleased to see it was, because I love Benton, if not outsmarting the Master. Well, it's outsmarting the Master. The Master thinks he's pulled the wool over Benton's eyes, but Benton has clocked him. And so he gets a moment. And that's because Benton's often just there to sort of shoot at the monsters and radio through and all of that. He pulls one over the major villain, and I like the bit later when sort of, the Master sort of acknowledges that, the ever resourceful Sergeant Benton, and here he is, one step ahead of the Master, hapless old Sergeant Benton, which is nice because although he gets those comedy moments, it sort of shows, well, no, but he's a sergeant, and he's a handy soldier. And these were the days when John Levine wanted to do the commentaries on his own, which, bless him, is something that could seem desperately arrogant, were it not for the fact that actually it comes from it's the opposite. It's him preserving himself from feeling like he might not do it as well with other people there. He might feel intimidated. We're complicated people. And John is a complicated person, but I think sometimes when it's suggested he's being resourceful, Sergeant Benton, when he's being, trying to steal the limelight, it's actually that he's less sure of himself than he sometimes shows. I like this. I like the fact that, again, the Master, who could be so aloof from Sergeant Benton, not actually have anything to do with him, has this. I know that's the unit family being a bit cosy as well. He does it so well. Yeah, and that's the oldest trick in the book. Yay, that's the best thing about it. So I'll have to tell you more about the commentary, because there's more to tell about the commentary, the original commentary of this. I've commentated on this before. I'm very lucky, and in fact, God, on the original commentary of this, I'm the only person still alive from it. My God. Donald Eccles was killed in a car accident, I seem to recall, driving back from a film shoot. But he always played old men. He's in the John Mills Quatermass playing a really old man. It's a really funny part, actually. I haven't slept for quite a number of years. He's also in the banned Doomwatch episode Sex and Violence, which has got Bernard Horsfall and him and Eric Pollard from Emmerdale, Chris Chattel, sitting around talking about banning things. John Wise does a quite hilarious. Fortunately, it's sort of blocked out by a not very good fade and some blinding light. But John Wise, when he turns around and looks shocked at the Master, and the appearance of a startled old man. That's the cliffhanger, isn't it? The appearance of a slightly startled old man. Wonder more. It's Dr. Cook, Neville Barber. I was trying to remember. Oh, nice single billing for. Somebody wrote to Matrix Databank in Doctor Who magazine and asked about Keith Dalton, the neophyte, and they said, well, his agent is at this address, but there was a sort of warning saying his career has not reached the heights he might have done, so he might be quite reluctant to write to you. It wasn't just a we'll forward it. There was a sort of warning that you might not get the response you want. Yes, I don't know anything much about Keith Dalton apart from that. Now, my favourite bit is the Master thinking he's outwitted Sergeant Benton outwitting the Master, and then the Master outwitting Sergeant Benton. That is an easy one to choose as my favourite bit for episode 2. So what has Alex Moore chosen as his?
My best thing about episode 2, and possibly the whole story, is Roger Delgado. As ever, he's wonderfully manipulative as a Master, and somehow manages to play the mad scientist whilst being in total control.
Well, Roger Delgado was involved in my favourite bit, but it's not that bit. Roger Delgado. Oh, okay. That's a score draw. So he said Roger Delgado, and I said Benton Master. Okay. Even Stevens. Well, look. I should go to bed. I hope you've enjoyed sitting with me while I rabbit on through the Time Monster. I'll rabbit on some more. Fur and all. Next time.
I think you'll find. I think you'll find.
I think you'll find.
I think you'll find.
Well, I think you'll find I found Keith Dalton, who I said I didn't know anything about in that commentary, because at the time I didn't. Somebody has pointed me in his direction. I'm not going to out him now and make you all descend on him like a mob, but he's alive and well, and I know where he is. Also, I have found some contemporary newspaper articles, a main one, where he talks about his day filming Doctor Who, where he largely complains about how boring it was. That was, as I say, from the time. So even at the time, his main anecdote was, it was really boring, and I don't think I want to do that sort of thing again. I wonder if the rose-tinted spectacles of nostalgia will change anything about his memories of Doctor Who. Well, I'm sure we'll have an excuse to find out at some point. But that's fun, isn't it? When I recorded this commentary track, I knew nothing about Keith Dalton. Now, I even know where he lives, poor man. But it's an ever-evolving process, this Doctor Who archaeology. And sometimes you come up with a living specimen. And we both said a prayer for a big marine named Camouflage. Hello, it's episode 3 of The Time Monster, and it's the daytime, and I don't care. If you're watching along, and you don't have to, there is no obligation so to do, press play, or in my case, because I'm on episode selection for the first time ever in Happy Times and Places, wow, we're rewriting the rulebook as we go along. Press enter or play or whatever now. Oh, it did it first time. There we go. Welcome. I didn't sleep last night. The first 2 episodes, if you're watching this in order, which I hope you are, this timey-wimey nonsense. I watched 2 episodes last night, but I had a terrible sleep. And I've got up and I've done a bit of work. And I'm still in my pyjamas. And I've just got that nagging middle-aged ennui, and I thought I'm going to watch that. If there's nothing that can sum up our situation more, it's I'm lucky I've got a partner, I have friends I can talk to. If I don't want to talk to anybody, I quite like talking out loud and expressing my feelings. I don't want to burden anybody else with those. But Doctor Who, there's nothing. Trying to watch The Time Monster to get something good out of it is surely as close as a metaphor for life as we need. Because I know I feel better if I eat better, if I do exercise. But I think I'm writing a script at the moment. Oh, I thought when I was younger, if I get to do things like write scripts for telly, that'll make life better. None of those things make life better. Life is a constant. You have to keep exercising, whatever it is that you put into place to negotiate the mire. And mine's not talking to people. Mine's not. I can't drink anymore. I can't smoke anymore. Which are things I used to do to sort of stick 2 fingers up to the world, or to distract me from what was going on. But Doctor Who has always been here. Anyway, welcome. For the commentary for this, it was me and 4 writers who, because we had no money, and I suggested, we'll get some Doctor Who fans who are professionals on the commentary. So this hasn't actually got on the DVD a commentary from any of the production personnel. I think it's an ambition of mine to maybe redress that when we come to do it on Blu-ray, when they come to on just Blu-ray, and I hope that and I wait for the phone call to see if somebody will ask me to be involved. It's never guaranteed, but I think we could do with doing because we were scuppered by budget, and this is a season finale. Let's forget, this was like the Demons is the sort of climax of the previous year. This is the season finale. The big bad returns, the Master returns. Oh, he's only had 6 weeks off, but there's a Time Eater, Atlantis. This is war, and then it's a story that nobody really talks about. So we got a load of writers, and I knew Graham Duff, who wrote a series called Ideal that was done up here. I wasn't in it, but I know a load of people that were, and Graham used to come to a sketch show that I was involved in. And Graham has since, nobody's ever noticed this, Graham wrote a sitcom called Ideal, but is also a Doctor Who fan. He's in Peter Capaldi's first episode as a sort of robotic waiter. So he started his Who association on the DVD commentary for the Time Monster. He's the only actor, surely, to be on a DVD commentary before he performs in an episode of Doctor Who, a completely unrelated episode, many years later. We got Phil Ford and Joe Lidster, and it's not a bad lineup of people I just Facebooked. Went, we haven't got any money, would you like to come and do a DVD commentary? You get a free DVD. So that's how we sort of, the budgets of these things got. So anybody that doesn't like the fact that we haven't got production personnel on that commentary, if it's literally better than nothing, then you're lucky, because that was the choice. We work very hard on the DVDs, but yeah, sometimes what you get is literally better than nothing, because nothing is the alternative. Anyway, I've gone off on one, haven't I? It's not always going to be exact. So Ian Collier, Stuart Hyde has just become a young man again. I love this effect. Yeah, I love the sort of flapping budgerigar thing is often had the Mickey taken out of it, but for something where Doctor Who's monsters are often, and it eats Percival, doesn't it? I think that's good, and it's very cleverly shot, because you get snatches of it, the whiteness, the fact that it's sometimes out of focus. I think Kronos is great. I love it. In a series where monsters are often men in green suits or lumber about, having something that's sort of bright white, sometimes indistinct, but that squawks and flaps rather than lumbers or hisses. But I know that people are hard on Kronos. I'm liking Kronos, and I love this sort of out of focus thing going on. And isn't sometimes the simplest effect great? They've slowed down time. Well, it's on film, you can slow down film. Slightly scuppered by the fact... Oh, and yeah, poor old Wonder Moore's having to sort of jog on the spot there. And he's pulled her out of the slow-mo. That was good, that was effective. That's quite a daring shirt she's got on, isn't it? It's sort of... It's like a burgundy explosion, or even a sort of burgundy petri dish, burgundy mould. And the fact that it's a sort of giant time budgerigar flapping about behind a Venetian blind is very Doctor Who, especially when you've got Roger Delgado, who is incapable of doing anything other than elevating what is around him by the fact that he is sheer class. But yeah, the slow-mo thing, it's so simple and effective. And I like this location. It's slightly undermined by the fact that Bessie is done with speeded up, because that wasn't time speeding up. That was just an effect to make the car look like it was going quicker. Yeah, and this little motif of Kronos regressing back into the crystal, flapping its wings, is great. So I'd forgotten Paul Bernard directed the series opener and the series finale. And Robert Sloman, the writer. Sloman and Bernard are Pertwee-only figures. Who both did interviews, but not as many as you'd have liked them to. And Sloman had died by the time we did the DVD of this, but he is on the DVD in a small interview on the Green Death. I'd like to have heard more of him, because he was he was not as experienced a writer, wasn't he? Was he? And Barry Letts sort of brought him in, and they worked on stuff together. I'd like to know his story a bit better. He worked in distribution in Fleet Street, didn't he? Donald Eccles is giving it quite a lot here. I think perhaps he's giving it more than is strictly necessary. But sometimes that's what you need when you've got two actors talking nonsense in a sort of in a lab set, and one of them's in a wig and Atlantean garb. He's got to give it a bit of something. Oh, talking of actors giving it too much. It's an extraordinary quality that Aidan Murphy, who I believe those so inclined think of as rather beautiful. He is rather beautiful. He's obviously his. I'm not designed to have my boat floated by whatever buoyancy he provides, but he's got a pretty face. He's still around, but his career, this perhaps won't be a surprise to anybody watching, never quite took off. Very good sets. This is all on film, of course. So Atlantis looks amazing at the moment, because Atlantis is only on film, and it's got King Dalios, George Cormack, who returns in Planet of the Spiders as Campo, another Pertwee-only figure. He's got a lovely quality about him, and he looks good. I'm assuming that's a wig. He's got very good flowing white hair, but you have to be very careful in sort of robes and oldie worldy, don't you? Because there's a temptation for everyone to sort of perform like they're in a 1950s performance of Shakespeare at one of the lesser reps. What is it, that light? Oh, Aidan Murphy. Great. Now, I am normally going to champion performers, and I think I see beauty and poetry in performances that many viewers today might see as being a bit stilted or stagey. That's because acting has become quite boring nowadays in places, and rather muttered. I quite like a performance that has a bit of something about it, which is why I keep going back to telly in the 60s, 70s and 80s. But it's not always, and sometimes you get a performance like Aidan Murphy as Hippias, who manages to be both wooden and over the top at the same time, which is quite a skill. Sort of rather insipid and yet too much, both at the same time. It's sort of... yeah, it's that takes some doing. But again, we could have tried to get him for the commentary as well. We just struggled, I think. We didn't have any money. There's a commentary to be done on this. Does anybody know Aidan Murphy and Wonder Moore? Perhaps they probably live together, knowing. Well, they probably live next door. The amount of times I've looked for somebody and then found out just after they've died that they were uncle of a friend of mine or something. So if you live in a commune with Aidan Murphy and Wanda Moore, come round for tea. We'll do a commentary on the Time Monster. I like Pertwee's jacket here, and he hasn't got any neck garments. I like a neck garment, but I quite like the sort of casual. I saw somebody on Twitter today put rehearsal pictures of the Monster of Peladon, and he didn't have his bow tie on, and it was sort of big collars, open necked. It was the same costume, just without the bow tie, and it looked rather cooler. Because he is quite cool, Pertwee, isn't he? He's a very natural presence as the Doctor, isn't he? Now, I seem to recall, are they eating marmalade sandwiches? I remember thinking that was very funny in the book as well, that Stuart Hyde only had marmalade for sandwiches. But again, I know that some people hate Stuart Hyde. I think I probably should, but I don't know. I just liked him in the book. He's quite an unusual character. Anyway. Yeah, Donald Eccles is really going for it, isn't he? He's just so good, Delgado. Now I think this annoys people as well, doesn't it? The building of a time thing with a wine bottle in a. I think it's suitably silly that it's allowed. Interesting. I'd probably be furious if it was in the series now, but because it's in the past and you can't do anything about the past, or can you? And Doctor Who's future isn't resting on it. When Doctor Who is sort of a bit outrageous, embraces its stupidity. You go, yeah, that's fine. It's Doctor Who's, but as a sort of young, serious fan, had this been on when I was a young, serious fan, as opposed to several years before, because I'm very young, I can understand why I might have been furious, because Doctor Who's very serious, and you can't jam a time signal with a wine bottle and some forks, and yet. Fruitcake standard. There we go. I used to love that line. Nutty's a fruitcake. And yes, it's just getting to the Brigadier, of course, has that wonderful wonderful shtick of being disbelieving of everything, which does get to the point where you go, when are you going to start? But I mean, I'm all for a skeptic, especially in this world of conspiracy theories. But then again, conspiracy theories are based on being skeptical of some things that you just go, no, you have to just accept some things. Anyway, let's not get into. There's a man at the co-op who thinks that all terrorist attacks have been faked and they use mannequins. He said the Westminster Bridge attack was faked because he saw a picture. Have you seen the dead bodies? No, I haven't seen the dead bodies. I'm not looking at pictures of dead people. Well, you could tell they were mannequins. What? No, surely it's easy. It's easier to actually kill people than invent some fictional people, create a backstory for them, hire actors to play their sad relatives, and also get everybody to look the other way whilst you ship in these mannequins for which presumably there's no sales records. If you're that evil, they're just going to kill people. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, yeah. But that said, I'm less inclined to believe that. I'm more inclined to believe that the Westminster terrorist attacks were real than that you can block a time experiment with a wine bottle, some key fobs, 2 sets of keys, a tin mug. Hang on, I've not long done Turn Left on this. That had a tin mug in it as well. I wonder if I'm going to see how many tin mugs there are in the history of Doctor Who. Oh, there we go. It was fun while it lasted. It was very silly. Oh yes, of course. This is the episode with all the. There's something about the TARDIS on a van or on a lorry that I rather like. And also, I've just done Evil of the Daleks, and the TARDIS is on a van in that. It's interesting how when you watch stories in random order, strange similarities crop up that you'd never noticed before. But I do like the TARDIS on a van. I like it on in Marco Polo as well when it's on a cart, isn't it? There's something about seeing the TARDIS transported not under its own steam that makes it seem sort of, it gives it a sort of grubby nobility. I don't know why. And of course, this is where yes, it really is. Crass. Donald. I'd not noticed quite how bad Donald Eccles was. A marvellous actor. He's really good in the John Mills Quatermass. He has another great line about that he's an old chemist, so they get him to sniff stuff. I'll tell you in a minute, because this caused all sorts of problems. Greg Powell is now a hugely highly regarded stuntman. He worked on the Harry Potters and all sorts of things, but I think he was relatively inexperienced here, and there was certainly anger between the production team and the stunt, and there was injury and all sorts. But that's a great image, isn't it? I think Barry talk about it on the commentary? He must have talked about it on one of the later episodes. A goon in fancy dress? No, it's an actual knight, and I like Doctor Who when it. Have you been drinking? Come on, Brigadier. If it sounds strange, it's more likely to be true rather than somebody being drunk or imagining it. You have been drinking. Oh dear. Now, Simon Legree, unit sergeant. I've never come across him in anything before or since. I hope he's well and happy. This is going to be. Oh dear. Oh yes. And now it's the Roundheads. I love the incongruity of old-fashioned stuff against modern. But you could be shooting your granddad. Don't kill any of the Roundheads. That would be awful, wouldn't it? The unit soldier fired on a Roundhead. We're going to be interrupted for the first time in one of these, because my other staff has just come downstairs in the lift, because I didn't tell her I was doing this, because I've done it on an impulse, because I'm 46 and sometimes you have to do impulsive things. You're right. You're right. Can I carry on?
Oh, sorry, you're talking to... Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm doing a thing. Is that all right?
Yeah, I'll mind out the way.
No, well, you don't have to worry.
No, I'm going back upstairs anyway.
It's live. Look, it's live. It's real life.
It's live. Shit's 1972.
It is 1972.
I'm psychic Doctor Who here.
Yeah, there is. I like having the modern day invaded by the past. I think there's the juxtaposition. I think that knight against the lorries, the Roundheads against the unit soldiers. That's a nice wheeze. That's a very sort of Doctor Who-y, dare I say, timey-wimey thing. But yes, I do worry about. I worry unnecessarily. I'm very drawn to that bit in Clark's when they talk about the Death Star being built and gets in Return of the Jedi, and it gets blown up, and you go, but the guys building it, they're just manual labourers. They're probably being forced to work under union rules. Blah blah blah. So and yet, so they die in the explosions as well. And you sort of think about these Roundheads. They're not baddies. They're just transported through time. So they're suddenly having to fight against people with machine guns, and you go, that's slightly unfair, and they're not. So I hope they don't kill any of the Roundheads. One of them is Dave Carter, he's the speaking Roundhead, isn't he? Who's a ubiquitous small part player in 70s Doctor Who. No, phew, they vanished before Captain Yates could blow them all to pieces. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they're gonna... Yes. And, that idea of snatching things from different time periods is a great sort of kids' Saturday tea time sort of thing to do, I think. Now, people say this is in black and white, so it's... But it's sort of often listed as a mistake. The picture of the footage of the V2 is in black and white, but the picture is so murky. I'm not sure you can attest to that with any massive confidence. It could just be a grey day. Yeah. So anyway, well, V1. Sorry. Of course, it creates a time paradox, because if the Master, as we discover in the next episode, has snatched that from back in time when it did actually land here, then it never would have landed here. See, that's a great shot of the TARDIS and the convoy. I think is really good. It's not usual for so many actors. I mentioned Simon Legree, Dave Carter for Ubiquitous, one we've struggled to get hold of, and Aidan Murphy. I know somebody's had a signed photo from Aidan Murphy. Ditto Wonder Moore, but no great contact. It's not usual for a Doctor Who story to have living actors that we don't either know where they are or we've not had some sort of contact with. There's a sort of cabal of us who sort of at various times made overtures to supporting actors, guest actors. But the Time Monster is one that's quite unlucky. So maybe everyone's just a bit embarrassed. But they shouldn't be, because I love that explosion. And I love the fact that the Brigadier is Captain Yates, Sergeant Major Captain Yates. When he thinks that Captain Yates has been blown up, he says, Mike. I love that. That makes I actually get a little bit emotional when he does that, because it's a sign that they're mates. And Mike is because he's even credited as Captain Mike Yates. But I love the fact that the Brigadier's clearly worried, so he calls him Mike. So that's the end of the Time Monster Part 3. I was in a foul mood when I started doing this. I was having a rotten day. Well, not a rotten day even, just a day of kind of, I think, meh is the current parlance. It's happening to me a lot because I'm 46. And I know I have so many things that other people don't have in terms of luck and good fortune and partnership and support and all those sorts of things. But I think I am going through a midlife crisis. And this is my way of battling it. So if anybody's out there, thanks for giving me at least the idea that somebody might be listening. If you're going through a midlife crisis, it's definitely a thing, isn't it? It's definitely a thing. And I'm aware it's not the worst thing, but, but I also, sometimes I get hungry. And I'm not as hungry as somebody starving in Africa. That, of course not. Everything is relative. But somebody being starving in Africa doesn't stop me being hungry, even if I'm luckier than they are. Do you know what I mean? So interesting. But it's always Doctor Who that you go back to see what makes you happy about it. My favourite thing about that episode, it's got to be the way that the Brigadier says Mike at the end. There's some good things in there. I like all the sort of, I like the slow motion stuff. I love Kronos. But I might be saving Kronos for a later instalment, unless Alex does Kronos because that means I can't. I love the juxtaposition of the medieval knight and the unit Land Rovers, but I love the way that the Brigadier says Mike. And I've got something that's just hit me. I'm not sure he does in there. I think the cliffhanger cuts off early in the next episode. I might have dreamt that. Let's see what Alex has chosen.
My best thing about episode 3 is the time flow analog machine. Who knew that you could interfere with the inner workings of a TARDIS with the help of a corkscrew, a couple of forks and an old mug? I think it's wonderfully 70s Who and sort of sums up the inventiveness of John Pertwee's Doctor.
Well, and he's young, but obviously not too serious, which means he's going to be all right. Good lad, good old Alex. Alex liked the stupid wine bottle time manipulator. Well, look, we're halfway through. We're in the midpoint of the Time Monster, but it's not. How is it going to resolve its midpoint crisis? I expect next week the Time Monster to buy itself a Harley Davidson, or at least go take a trip to Atlantis. We'll see. I'm still in my pajamas, and it's 6 minutes past 4. Oh, to humanity. Just a warning, when episode 4 was recorded and went out, I thought it'd be fun if I just sat back, ate some crisps, chilled out, watched Doctor Who, partially because this is a video series as well, and I thought having me munching on crisps might make everyone feel welcome round my house. However, as a purely audio experience, listening to a man crunching crisps close to a microphone it's more unpleasant than this podcast usually is. So I've actually cut the lengthy preamble where there was a lot of crisp eating for the sake of your ears. But there is still some residual crunching throughout the sort of early parts of the episode, for which I apologise, but it's certainly better than it was. But if you're finding it too much, it's only something that happens in episode 4, and so skip forward to episode 5. But I'm hoping with this pruning, it should be manageable. Apologies, won't happen again. I'm on episode selection, so I'm going to press enter. You could press play, or you could just listen, and hopefully I am so eloquent and my observation so astute that you can just picture what's going on in your head. Anyway, if you have the episode in front of you, 3, 2, 1, pow. Look at that. It's the Time Monster, which I don't have it on my shelf in the box, although I do have the box somewhere because I can't throw anything away that's to do with Doctor Who. It was part of the Myths and Legends box set. So also Horns of Nimon and Underworld. What a triumvirate. The Myths and Legends box set. Which is I've never seen such an incredible bunch, Patrick Trout would say if he'd seen them stuck together. Anyway, it's not the silliest of Doctor Who box sets that were done. I'm looking at you, Earth Story. Anyway, we're on to episode 4, which is where I suppose the story is going to start going to Robert Sloman. Of course, he had a proper job. He was distribution manager for the Sunday Times, but he did have plays on, didn't he? And he was supposed to, I think, write a Dalek story for this season, but then the Daleks were shoved into Day of the Daleks, which hadn't been a Dalek story. I wonder what Daleks in London was like. That was what Robert Sloman's original storyline was supposed to be. So did this instead. And of course... Yeah. You're going to call him Mike in a minute. Oh, no, I think I did say, didn't I, last episode? I think they don't have my favourite bit from episode 3. They don't even put in episode 4. So it's a good job I chose it last week. And of course, Atlantis, I don't think of Atlantis as being in the past, really. Oh, it's quite badly... Oh. Now, he used to be in UNIT and knows car accidents, this farmer. It's George Lee, who is Corporal Forbes in Spearhead from Space. He's not the American actor George Lee, as the Internet Movie Database would have it. And please don't write in and go, IMDb says. IMDb is not flawless. In fact, it is anything but flawless. And basically, if something has an actor in one thing playing, say, a small part in a British TV thing, and then the same month has them playing a big part in an American film. I'm not saying George Lee did this. They're probably not the same person. People having the same name is more likely than somebody having a career that doesn't tally. If somebody was in something in 1958 and then 2002, it's probably not the same person. But you wouldn't believe how many people write to me and say that they might be. Oh yeah, by the way, I have mentioned that quite a lot of this cast I've never found. I have tried typing their names into Google. I do get that quite a lot when I go, I've never found that person. And I've been through births, marriages and deaths, all sorts of things. You go, I've Googled them. Is it them? You go, yeah, I did think to do that because I have used the internet before. Anyway. So I think there's a sitcom to be had with 70s hair was a thing, wasn't it? I suppose. I mean, that's the advantage of I've never been in fashion, so I look back on old photographs of myself. I look awful anyway because I didn't know. I've never taken much care of my appearance. I'm sure if I look back on this, I'm never watching this. If I look back on this 2 years ago, I go, why didn't I brush my hair? Because at the time I didn't care. And it's funny because I see friends now, actors, who make themselves look nice before somebody takes a photo or whatever. And I think maybe I could have put myself about a bit more effectively had I taken care of it, because it is a visual medium. People do like to look at people who look nice. Oh, it's the new TARDIS, which designed by Tim Gleeson and used for the interior of the Master's TARDIS and the Doctor's TARDIS. And the roundels, a big old washing up. But it's how old have I got? Because I go, it's the washing up bowl TARDIS. And then I go, a bowl that size would be really useful. You could make industrial amounts of scones in one of them. Barry Letts didn't like it, and it apparently got damaged, which is why it was. I like the central column, actually. I like that. And so it was never used again. So that's quite an expense, isn't it, to have a new TARDIS interior that it ends up being used once. Because it was damaged in between seasons. Barry Letts walked past it accidentally with a sledgehammer. He's like, oh dear, poor little TARDIS interior. It's taken a little tumble. Oh, what a shame. Something's happened to its pretty little roundels. But of course, I don't think of Atlantis as the past. But it is, isn't it? It's although Atlantis is a fictional place, the idea is that we're going back in time to a time when Atlantis existed, which is it's a first trip back in. I mean, I suppose the War Games. Yes, I know it was on an alien planet, but the War Games was in different war times, even though they were only. Stagings of those. To all intents and purposes, the visual iconography and the characters are all characters from the past. But apart from that, Abominable Snowmen War Games. So that's quite a long time for the Doctor not to travel back in time. I know, obviously, the Pertwee era, he's exiled to the 20th century, but Troughton hadn't gone back in time that much either. Which is odd, because the BBC does back in time very well, and the stuff that I've talked about that I like of the incongruity of past, and the past is more frightening than the future. A cobweb is scarier than a laser beam, and when science fiction is scary, like Alien, it is sort of, that's a haunted house, basically, isn't it? They use the tropes of horror. So I think the past, because the past is a window to a place where everyone's dead, frankly, and that reminds us of our own mortality. Looking at people so alive, look at Pertwee glittering like a tall light bulb, as Tom Baker would say. Londoners. Yes, because I'm from the country. Of course, all country people would look at a materialising police box and blame it on being folk from the city. Poor old George Lee, he gets some stick in the... he's in a couple of episodes of Fawlty Towers as different characters, but there's one where he drops off a statue, I think, and is quite rude to Manuel, and it's either John Howard Davis or Bob Spears. I can't remember which episode commentator it is very... I love the fact Stuart Hyde's got a spanner, because you could do that in those days. You could whack somebody over the back of the head or in between the shoulders and render them unconscious, which of course is an imitatable thing, but being hit on the head or being stabbed was seen as a lesser sort of killing in those days. Now, of course, with knife crime and assaults of that nature, that would be really dodgy to have, but for some reason thwacking somebody on the head, which could cause serious concussion, was a sort of acceptable children's tea time action. George Lee, whoever it was, is quite rude about his performance in Fawlty Towers on that commentary. I just remember that, which is a shame. He's playing a sort of... In Fawlty Towers, he's playing a sort of grumpy delivery man. And he's not doing anything especially wrong, I don't think. But and he's quite fun as the farmer, and I like him as Corporal Forbes. So the Doctor doesn't have the same central column as the Master. Right, so it's just the walls that are repeated. Tim Gleeson, who also designed Colony in Space. I've never had the pleasure, but I did have an address for him, and I put Graham Kibble-White in touch with him, I think, and so he's done an interview, which is good. I don't think we got him on any of the DVDs though, and he's still around. So that's I'm organising a Time Monster commentary for the Blu-ray out loud, even though it's not on the cards as far as I know. I'm the last to know anything, but it's certainly possible. The lobby starts here. Let's have a new commentary for the Time Monster, with some of the cast and crew. It's Logopolis Mark 1. TARDIS within a TARDIS. It's a bit of a fun paradox. I mean, it's silly, isn't it? It's nonsense, but it's okay. They've got great rapport, haven't they? I don't speak about that. I'm very much in danger of taking the regulars for granted. I loved when I first saw The Curse of Peladon as part of a thing called Doctor Who and the Monsters, which was repeats, 2 episodes edited together, so 50-minute instalments. The Curse of Peladon, and I saw Joe Grant for the first time. I wrote TH for KM on my exercise book. I fell in love with Katie Manning. I've since had the pleasure of meeting her, of course, and how could you not love Katie Manning? She's ace. Oh, and of course, this is I mentioned in the beginning, this is the last episode to feature all of the unit family, because of course Mike Yates isn't in episode 6, as Benton is, and the Master in Frontier in Space doesn't have the Brigadier in Yates and Benton. So this is the end of the unit family and the Pertwee. Oh, and a nice callback. I love the sort of, there's a slight intense effrontery there to Roger Delgado, and John Levine's great at the tough stuff. Oh, I love that door. That's not the sort of flappy open door. It's a sort of pull shut door. I really like that. I do hope my favourite thing in this episode isn't a door. But let's see. I think this episode... Is this episode the one that's not got the original intended cliffhanger? That happens a few times with Barry Letts Roberts. We're seeing as Barry Letts was the producer, because that happens with Planet of Spiders, episode 5. 4 and 5. Oh, but that's partially because of some bad CSO. Oh, this coccyx stuff is... I remember having to... I thought it was coccyx. I had to ask my mother how to pronounce it. Tailbone. Don't hear anybody talk about coccyxes anymore. I would quite like these lot to have their own spin-off. They're like a prototype Torchwood. They're the 70s tour. That was a missed opportunity, because they've had stuff where they've had sort of Torchwoods from the past, haven't they? Stuart Hyde, Ruth Ingram and Sergeant Benton as 70s Torchwood would be fantastic. Oh, you see, scratch a feminist, and there's somebody who uses the phrase old women in a pejorative way. Ruth, you bad feminist. It'd be great to have... Can you imagine Ruth Ingram charging around solving alien invasions whilst ticking people off for their masculinity? We shall bring down alien invasions and the patriarchy at the same time. I mean, maybe she's not really a feminist. Maybe she's just spent so long working with Stuart that she thinks all men are a bit useless. Who knows? But she's good. Wonder Moore's good. Oh dear, but the Brigadier's still stuck on... It's obviously somebody's pressed the pause button there, but that's okay. Oh, and yes, I was thinking about Robert Sloman because the Guy Leopold thing with the demons, he's got a son called Guy, and Barry's middle name is Leopold. So that's certainly an element of Guy Leopold, but it could be that I haven't got my stuff there. It could be that Robert Sloman's son's called Guy because his own dad was called Guy. I don't know, but of course it was Mervyn Haseman and Henry Lincoln who used fathers-in-law, I think, to do Norman Ashby for the Dominators. So I might be confusing my nom de plumes, but certainly get Barry as Barry Leopold Letts, and Robert Sloman's son is called Guy. So that's at least a partial explanation for Guy Leopold. But obviously by this point, Barry Letts, very magnanimous man, just went, oh, you can get the credit, doesn't matter, I'm doing everything else. Oh, it's so sad to think how... Oh, dear, what a poor fellow he is. He is so charming, isn't he? He is... It's funny because I'd seen so much of Doctor Who when you revisited as a kid, or when you saw it for the first time, was not quite what you imagined. And of course, I'd only seen photos of Roger Delgado. I remember, reading the unit books, and I thought Mike Yates was like a really tough guy, and he's not. And I thought some of the battles were, much more impressive than perhaps they were, and certainly some of the monsters. But I remember the first time I saw Roger Delgado, and just going, oh, he's as good as I thought. He's sometimes better than I thought. He's been one of the things that has sort of exceeded my expectations, where my imaginary forces couldn't quite conjure how good he is. I mean, he doesn't have a duff moment. I know people talk about the bit where he begs for the doctors for his life at the end of this. People say that's not very good, but I shall keep an eye out. I think they might be wrong. But he's great, isn't he? He's great. So sad. TOMTIT. I mean, I'm TOMTIT. Really? But yeah, they've got a great dynamic, these guys. So yeah, Robert Sloman. Also, I think he's. I was thinking I haven't done it because it ended up not being very interesting. But Robert Sloman had an interest in boats and did a lot of sailing later in life, as does Michael Bryant. It's almost a shame that Sloman never wrote something Bryant directed, because that was sea-based. Because Michael Bryant is a great man of the sea. And of course Patrick Troughton was at sea during the Second World War, as was John Pertwee. John Pertwee was in the Navy as well. Oh, this is a great effect. I don't know, it's obviously quite a simple one, but it works really well, that blackening of Benton, and it's quite grim, because if it weren't for the sort of slightly zinky zonky music, you could play that as though something really serious has happened to Benton, which of course it hasn't. Instead, you get a bit I love. But does it count for this episode, or does it count as baby Benton? Oh, Darren Plant, who I remember thinking John Levine, bless him, was on a flight of fancy, because I think he mentions in the commentary, because he did a bit of commentary for this episode as well, did he? Maybe, or just mentioned it in the episode that he does, that the baby sadly died before the year was out, which I'd never heard. And then I did some checking, and yes, sadly he did. Baby Benton, Darren Plant, did sadly pass away. But John, being John, bless him, I think says something in the commentary like, but at least he ended up being in Doctor Who, which I sort of know what he meant. He was trying to sort of make something nice about, and the fact that, you know, he's immortalised and all of that sort of thing. But it also, out of context, it has a certain amount of pathos about it. How sad. And yeah, I'm like the kid in The Sixth Sense, aren't I? What do you do, Toby? I largely watch television and point out who's dead. I remember there being a very good sketch in the Mary Whitehouse Experience of people. It's things people do when watching television. Number 174, Dad's Army, and it's a dead, he's dead. That one died first, which is very. And that's what we used to do when we watched Dad's Army. My mum used to go, yeah, and it'd get to Jimmy Beck. She'd go, yeah, he died first. He was one of the youngest. And then I remember some people thought that Ian Lavender was dead. And I remember saying to my friend Oliver's mum, no, he's definitely not. Oh, I thought he died first. No, Jimmy Beck died first. Walker died first. Ian Lavender's still alive, you know. But of course, it's, you know, it's less and less of a thing to comment on as time goes by now. All three of these gentlemen are dead. Gosh, and two of them died in car accidents. Roger Delgado and Donald Eccles. Oh, I was talking about Donald Eccles last night. He's got a great line in Quatermass. Quatermass it's called. It's also known as the Quatermass Conclusion, where he plays an old chemist who... and they're using him because he can identify smells, and the aliens are taking traces of humanity, and he has a great thing about the musk deer, where, you know, we take just a trace of it for the smell, and all we need is a you know, a tiny trace of this animal to highlight that smell, and the rest of it is sort of waste, as it were. And that's what the aliens are doing to us in Quatermass 4, or whatever you want to call it. So they get this old chemist who's living in a knackered car, and he identifies the smell. He goes, yes, the first girl I ever lay with after 74 years. Now, this was supposed to be the episode ending, and that would have been a cracking episode ending. The Doctor has been eaten by the giant budgerigar of time, who I still maintain is a pretty good design. And of course it's going to squawk. It's a time budgerigar. But yeah, that was supposed to be the episode ending, but it's underrun a bit. I mean, the Master is very charming, but he is prepared to kill Joe, which is pretty grim. Oh, he's so good. He does sadism with such charm. I think Donald Eccles is back again. I've worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I've worked with some of the leading classical actors. I've played some of the great classical parts myself. And I'm standing in a wig in front of some washing up bowls, watching John Pertwee getting eaten by a space budgerigar. So this should be episode 5, but it's not. It's episode 4. But I love a spinning TARDIS model shot. And that's a very, as contrived episode endings go, that's pretty good. Should be the Master. I quite enjoyed that. I get a bit morbid. I get a bit morbid sometimes, don't I? Anyway, right. What was my favourite bit of that episode? episode? Well, I'm gonna say I like Kronos. I like the design, the filming out of focus, the squawking, that thing of him going in and coming out of the crystal. I like Kronos the Chronivore. I think he's great. What does Alex think was the best thing about episode 4?
My best thing about episode 4 is the Doctor and the Master's exchange in the TARDIS. This felt so much like something out of The Curse of Fatal Death, but I think it's brilliant. It shows how well the two characters know each other and how they wind each other up, as well as trying to thwart each other's plans. Who doesn't want to hear John Pertwee talk backwards?
Who doesn't want to hear John Pertwee talk backwards? Nicely put. And Delgado and Pertwee have a great dynamic. And I understand that some people say it gets a bit cosy, but do you know what? Family-friendly tea time entertainment, sometimes in front of a fire with boiled eggs and soldiers. Well, if you can't be cosy, then when can you be? Yeah, good choice, but I played my Kronos Joker, which I'm hoping I won't regret in episodes 5 and 6 when we get to Atlantis, where I fear pickings may be slim. Anyway, I'm still in my pyjamas at 5:15. It's one of those days. Hope yours is better, or has at least been made better by this. I can't imagine why, but just in case, hooray! Okay, keep on trucking, and goodbye, Miss Grant. Goodbye till next time, or forever, whichever comes first. Marmalade Fandango. For those of you that aren't keeping up, that is purely better than saying okay then, which seems to be my go-to very dull phrase to introduce this bit, which is to say, if you're watching along to the Time Monster episode 5, press play now. Well, welcome. This is going to be an interesting one because I remember when I did Running Through Corridors, which is a book I did with Rob Shearman, where we had to watch Doctor Who in order, and as we did so, try to just be positive. Rob wrote one line about episode 5 of The Time Monster. It was the only episode that defeated him, which left the field open for me a little bit, and I think I did slightly better than him, but I think it goes to show it's not perhaps. It'd be interesting. I'm going to try and give it a chance. That's why we are here. That's why this exercise is, I hope, slightly more interesting than perusing an internet forum. Well, I don't know. Who knows? But I hope so. And thanks for joining me. It's after midnight, so I'm not eating. So there's no crisps available. I have, though, because the whole point of this is to watch it, chat along, throw it out there. But of course, I then fixate on all of the things I talk about. It's this day and age, isn't it? Where you go, what if that could be misconstrued, or what if I come across as an idiot like that? Hello, Toby. You come across as an idiot in all the things you say. Thank you, conscience. Thank you, internet. But I decided that because I hadn't thought about the cast of The Time Monster, many of whom we've not been able to find, I was thinking, when the DVD came out relatively recently, about 11 years, I thought I'd have a little sniff. And there's a cabal of Doctor Who fans who there's 3 or 4 of us who've all sort of found actors here, there, and everywhere. So I sometimes will send a text to Ben Jolly and Lee Allam or Stephen Griffiths and go, have you, by the way, ever made contact with so-and-so? And they'll do the same to me. And so I texted Stephen about Wanda Moore, and he dropped he said, oh no, well, maybe this, through that. So I found her. Anyway, I found her. Stephen had sort of, as I say, had pointed me in the right direction. So I did a bit of digging because, it was bedtime and I should have gone to bed and I've got work to do. So I did that instead. And anyway, I've written to her. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. Quite often when you write to people, you hear nothing back, so don't get your hopes up. But anyway, she's not even in this episode. And Simon Legree, Stephen was telling me, he's never found, and he's very good, Stephen. Simon Legree was only in Spotlight for 1 year. We know nothing else about him. Simon Legree is, of course, one of the main characters in Uncle Tom's Cabin. So, that's a pretty odd pseudonym to choose, isn't it? If it was a pseudonym. And if it's his real name, it means he's quite hard to find because Uncle Tom's Cabin keeps coming up. Anyway, I've still not said anything about episode 5 of The Time Monster. This set is nice and spacious. And it's nice to be somewhere else. So, we're stuck in the laboratory set. Now, the man banging his staff is Derek Murcott as Lord Creto, and he's also always a character that whenever I watch this I go, I'd forgotten about Lord Creto. I don't actually know what he does. I know he's a bit mean to Susan Penhaligon at one point, but he's one of those characters that I sort of just draw a blank with. I don't know much about Derek Murcott either, other than the fact that he went to America and he's now died. Susan Penhaligon as the handmaiden Larkis in the background, one of our finest actresses from Bouquet of Barbed Wire. Late replacement for Anne Michelle, sister of Vicky Michelle from Hello Hello, because Anne Michelle kept being late for rehearsals and was fired. Susan Penhaligon was an old mate of Katie Manning's, and Katie Manning said, why don't you cast my mate? Which is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. So we were meeting lots of new actors here. Aidan Murphy's back. He's very falsetto. He has a flute in delivery. He would be very good to play flute in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Bless him. He's having a bash, isn't he? And the guy next to him with the beard, Michael Walker, you may recognise as he was in The Claws of Axos without a beard as one of the 2 radar operators in the first 2 episodes, and it was sort of acting career on and off for a couple of decades, but longer than that, because he started as a boy actor and was in, this guy here with the beard, Michael Walker, he was in the very first production of Waiting for Godot as the boy, because he was a juvenile actor, but that's theatrical history, being in the first ever production of Waiting for Godot. So he started off as a boy actor, doesn't act anymore. I've never had contact with him. Stephen has though. I do like George Cormack as Dalios. I like this set. I mean, it is a sort of mannered costume drama, isn't it? Now, I quite like a mannered costume drama, but I think I think berobed costume dramas are perhaps berobed and bare-chested are not perhaps my costume drama of choice. Oh, I like I, Claudius. This is no I, Claudius. I think because it requires a certain sort of type of Shakespearean acting. And Shakespeare, which I love, when done well... Oh, there's a lovely cat. And Ingrid Pitt. Shakespeare, when done well, is the best thing ever. Shakespeare, when done badly, is the worst thing ever, although I am quite entertained by bad Shakespearean acting. And then isn't that Doctor Who? Because I've got to remember I'm being positive, and not because I'm taking the mickey. I've got to be positive because Doctor Who is great. It's the best programme ever made. Even when it's not good. I haven't decided if this isn't good. That's brilliant, you see. A computer bank with the master in it landing in Atlantis. And I love King Dalios's response, because we're quite used to sort of people from the past being a bit in awe of the future and a bit kind of... We patronise the past a bit, I think, sometimes. God, we certainly do in this day and age. And to our great discredit. Yes, I think our cultural commentary today is treats the past with a disdain it sometimes doesn't deserve. I really like King Dalios's sort of blasé response to the master appearing. It's kind of like, yeah, okay. Which is better than the sort of, falling to the knees and going, oh, a mighty cupboard has landed in our midst. It must be the gods, or whatever. And he's quite sexy, the master, isn't he? I mean, I'm not... I love a bit of Ingrid Pitt. Oh, she's taken a fancy to the master. Sorry, Hippias, don't look doe-eyed. I've learnt that to my cost-mate. Don't look all sad. They don't like it. 20 years I spent looking sadly at women who weren't interested. or if they were interested, then I looked sad to keep their attention, and they went off me. Don't look sad. Don't look sad at the ladies. They don't like it. But I think the master is quite sexy, isn't he? Oh, bless him. He's not good, is he? I mean, it takes a certain chutzpah to act in a nappy. But I think we all dream of, stardust when we enter the profession, yelling in falsetto in a nappy with eyeshadow and a wig on. It's, probably not what you imagined when you went to drama school or, lay in bed going, oh, one day I shall be spurned by Ingrid Pitt. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying this. I haven't released any of these yet, so this is very early days. Nobody might watch them. But it's been interesting, the stories that people have chosen as well. I quite like that. Not everyone's gone for the favourites or the obvious ones. Oh, that's why I got confused about Dr. Percival, because it's been so long since he tries to hypnotise Dr. Percival, and it's easy, but it's the same story where he tries to hypnotise King Dalios and fails. So at least my brain wasn't, because I was wondering why I'd thought he had struggled with Dr. Percival. I'd got the same story, a different old man, but of course 10 years ago I wouldn't have made that mistake. Age brings King Dalios wisdom, just brings me increasing entropy and disappointment. I love Delgado's sort of respectful amusement at King Dalios being a match for him. I think that's great. But I'm just checking my sound. I might move the microphone a little closer. Hello, Mr. Microphone. Yeah, we'll survive. And when we did the commentary for this, I still haven't told you my full commentary story. I was a bit terrified of the idea of Ingrid Pitt, because she played terrifying women. And I remember seeing her, that's right, I remember seeing her. She was on an interview programme with a magician called David Burglass, who is still about, I think, who was on telly quite a bit in the 80s, and she was interviewed, and she talked about the fact that she'd been in Doctor Who, but then she also went, and I have also written Doctor Who and the Macros. And I was going, what? And there was no video in those days. But she didn't write the Macra Terror, unless Ian Stuart Black was a pseudonym, and there's no way of checking all of this stuff. It was only many years later that it was, she wrote a story that had been commissioned for the season that never got made, or it got abandoned and it never happened. But whenever she recorded that interview with David Burglass, it was either still a going concern, or she just didn't want to say it wasn't happening, or they didn't know, or whatever. But yeah, she was certainly talking about she'd written a story, and there was no sense that it hadn't yet been made. But there was also, as I say, it also did sound like it could have already been on, but I thought I knew all the Doctor Who stories. But again, in those days, you only really had your memory to go on. So that's why in those days I remembered things much better than I do now. It's terrible, isn't it? Because we could just look stuff up now. I really like what George Cormack's doing, and I like the way that he's written. He has a sort of amused, detached wisdom about him, which I really like. As I say, very different from the, credulous ancients that we're sometimes used to in these. The sort of what poor old Donald Eccles is saddled with. Ingrid Pitt had talked about Doctor Who. So anyway, I was a bit terrified of the idea of Ingrid Pitt coming. Then Steve rang and said, she's not going to be able to. I don't think she was confirmed anyway. But it's she was. He'd said. First of all, I didn't think she was going. Then she could come, but then she couldn't come because she had to go into hospital to get her hip done or something. And of course, Ingrid Pitt for me is the sort of vampish, siren. This alluring Mediterranean. Or no, she's not Mediterranean. But this alluring. Countess Dracula, getting her hip done, mate. That made me feel old. Of course, I feel older now. So we didn't get Ingrid Pitt. There still wasn't any money because I still didn't get any. So I don't know what happened to Ingrid Pitt's money. Didn't go to Hadoke Towers. But it was. And I realised because I was trying to work out earlier what's happened with John Levine did episodes 2 and 4, didn't he? And we had the writers commentary that I talked about. When I say it was better than nothing, it wasn't better than nothing. They were going to do a fan commentary, but I'd already done one of those on Monster of Peladon, and I got a sniff that people didn't really like those. So I said, why not do a fan commentary that's professional writers? So that's why there's a writers commentary on TOMTITs. To see, I remember everything a couple of episodes later. I also remembered that the farm worker, George Lee, Corporal Forbes from Spearhead from Space, was originally cast as Kenneth Watson, who's Bill Duggan in The Wheel in Space, Billy Bug, and he's also Craddock in the movie of Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. So I don't know why he didn't end up playing the farm worker. You can cut the sexual tension in these scenes with a knife. Yeah, that's I do feel sorry for Hippias. His mouth is very, very downcast, isn't he? He does a lot of that when he's acting. Is that potentially the worst acted scene in the whole of Doctor Who? They're neither great, are they? Anyway, never mind. I'm supposed to be accentuating the positive. Susan Panhanagan's fine actress, very good. I feel bad now for saying this. The whole point of this is to accentuate the positive. Sorry everybody. Oh no, I like a blur from one scene to the other. That's a very Paul Bernard sort of thing. And the commentary for this is very sad because Barry Letts arrived and was sent the wrong way. So by the time he got to us, he'd already had a long walk round the arse end of Television Centre, and we were very surprised that he wasn't the Barry Letts we knew and loved. He was very poorly and very frail, and also then quite annoyed, and struggled. And we never do retakes in commentaries. They go all the way through and warts and all. But he was quite stumbly with his words, and I remember he had to do the end of episode 1 about 3 times. He was getting increasingly frustrated with himself, and that was a really sad thing. Was he was such a professional, and that was a great entrance for the Master. I like that shot. I'd forgotten about the cat. do your own joke about Ingrid Pitt's pussy right now, please, because I'm above that sort of thing. Yeah, Baronets was very, very frail, and actually he said at the end, it's a terrible thing he said at the end, oh, these are normally good, and I didn't enjoy that one at all, and I thought very gallantly said, oh yeah, no, I'm sorry, that was my fault, I wasn't really on top of this one, I'm sorry about that, and and that's the problem when you're being gallant, isn't it? You sort of expect the other person to go, no, absolutely not, it's fine. And of course, he sort of accepted that. So job done. I hope I made him feel better. But it meant that, but as I say, sometimes, usually when you say those things, you expect the other person to let you off the hook. He didn't let me off the hook. But he was very frail, and he was really struggling. And his son Crispin was with him, and took him away at the end, and I think we all, the three of us there, Steve, Peter, and I, just went. I think that's probably the last time we'll see him, and it was. I think he died a month later, which was very sad because he was a really nice bloke, and he was great at analysing his work and contributing to chronicling the legacy of Doctor Who. So it's a bit of a sad one for me, this, in that sense, in that I do associate that commentary with it was hard. It was a tricky one, and it was quite an edgy experience, simply because as it went on and the more frustrated Barry got, it was sad to see. But Delgado is so good, isn't he? And you can go as close as you like. There's something great about a leather glove on a hand as well, isn't there? You can go as close up as you like on Roger Delgado. He has got such a fantastic face. Why is Galea such a cow? Just because she likes the Master's beard. Or is she the Master's beard? I didn't even know what a beard was until that time crash joke, I never got that joke. Somebody had to explain it to me. I've led a very sheltered life. It's like a different story, isn't it? And I wonder why I don't like robes and catacombs. I suppose because it's a bit like, we're saying we're first time going back into the past since War Games and Abominable Snowmen or whatever, but it's not unlike Peladon, is it? I mean, it's robes and flaming torches, and so I suppose it's not that unfamiliar in that sense. So it's not really like a historical. I don't really think of this as an historical or even an historical portion, because I don't think of Atlantis as being in the Earth's past, because even though it's obviously derivative of certain Earth civilizations, it's not. It could be a berobed planet of which we are not unfamiliar. But it is, strictly speaking, I suppose. Yes, it's a journey to the past. But is she going to eat the grape? It reminds me of the old acting story. She's having trouble with the grapes. Those of you that can't see, Ingrid Pitt is manipulating. I wonder if they're edible grapes. There's an old actor story about two actors talking to each other, and one says to the other, "Are you working?" "Oh, yeah." "Oh, you happy about it?" "Not really." "Well, yeah, no, actually, no, yeah, no, it's good." "Oh, why? Is it a good play?" No, it's a terrible play." "Oh, okay. Reputable theatre company?" "No, awful." Is it a good part?" "No, it's a really bad part." "Oh, the money's good?" "No." Nice location?" "No." Good cast?" "Not really." Then why are you happy that you've got the job?" there's a practical sandwich in Act 2. I like that story. So, do you think Ingrid Pitt did it for the grapes? I'll do it if you let me have some practical grapes. She didn't eat the grapes. Now, right, this is the Lord Creto. I talked through the Lord Creto being cross at a door. Is it that Creto doesn't like Kippy? I don't know who Lord Creto is and what he does. And if I shut up, I might discover it. But as I say, I've got a real blank spot for him, and I know what, I remember the private in episode 1 of The Web of Fear goes, oh, but Sarge, I'm on this other job. I remember parts that make no contribution to the episode whatsoever. I still don't know what he's all about, but we'll do that when we do Web of Fear. And isn't it nice that we can do Web of Fear? Well, I'd have done the recon. I've got a recon of it somewhere. Oh, and Joe's suddenly on film. This looks good, doesn't it? Oh, is this the end of a... Well, that's okay. That's okay. I don't know. I think Rob was just being... And does Dalios get a single... I think it's Dalios and Galea get a single credit. That sort of thing appeals to me. Yeah, look at that. Single caption, love. Practical sandwich and a single caption. Ingrid Pitt was a bit of a star at this juncture, wasn't she? Creto, Derek Murcott, still don't know what he did. Angry at a door. Oh, and Melville Jones, the guard, he's a Cyberman. He's the other speaking Cyberman in Revenge of the Cybermen. He's a playwright now. Well, that was... I thought that was all right. I feel bad that I was mean about the scene between Ingrid Pitt and Aidan Murphy. I'm sorry about that, Ingrid Pitt and Aidan Murphy fans. It's like we're programmed to sort of go... to look askance at stuff. I'm trying to program myself out of that. That's why I'm doing this. I love Doctor Who. Doctor Who takes me to my happy place. Or, Right. So, what takes me to my happy place is a horrible Americanism that I wish had not tumbled out of my mouth. Gosh, I'm a miasma of regret, aren't I? Right. What did Alex like? Well, I liked King Dalios. And that's a bit of a broad thing. So I like King Dalios's sort of blasé, seen-it-all reaction to the Master. I thought that was refreshing. I thought that was an antidote to the credulous, savage kind of motif that is often used when a cupboard lands in ancient times. What did Alex like?
My best thing about episode 5 is the introduction of Jo as Lady Jojo Grant. Because, of course, those in Atlantis wouldn't know how funny it is, but it's an example, I think, of Doctor Who at its best, when you can have those moments of comedy, those throwaway lines, amongst what is often quite a dark story.
Yes, I was talking so much I missed that bit. That is a good bit. That is a funny bit. And again, yes, being serious about a joke, which they all are. So although it's a bit stuffy, that does work in the favour of things like that, because everybody plays that joke deadly seriously, nobody cocks a spook at it, and that makes it even more effective. And it is a very Doctor Who thing. Good choice, Alex. Everybody chooses better than I. Anyway, that was the Time Monster episode 5, which I thought was absolutely fine. And I'd been, between you and me, I'd been a bit worried about it. Thank you for joining me. Join me next time. This has been me, Toby Hadoke. They call me Mr. Boombastic, say me fantastic. But in other news, we're about to watch episode 6 of The Time Monster, which I think I have to go back to episode selection on the DVD that I'm watching. Here we are. So, episode 6, The Minotaur has arrived. Let's see it mine. Press play now. Well, of course, there's a bit of a pause if you do episode. Here we go. Love this title sequence. I love the graphics and the themes of certainly of the 60s and 70s in particular. I don't think there's any I dislike, but I really love. I think they're all of a pretty equal quality for the first right up to the Starfield, which I like for different reasons. But I think I like the abstract nature of the 60s and 70s titles. That's Darth Vader. He's in good shape, isn't he? Oh, Lord Krito's being angry at a door again. Yeah, that's what Lord Krito does. He gets angry at angry in doorways, coming through a door, stopping people coming through a door. That's what Lord Krito does. It's amazing seeing this in such sort of cleaned up quality. I remember this bit because when I was briefly part of a fan group, we did sort of videos advertising the episodes that people could watch next month or whatever, and people voted and things like that. And I remember we used a clip of the beginning of the Time Monster 6. I think people did choose to watch that. And isn't that interesting that Atlantis has tridents in? Oh, well done. That was well cool. You oojed the guard and then snapped his tripod. Oh, I sort of like that. The sort of camera move, the indistinct camera move. Because this is a funny old scene, though, isn't he? So Joe is in a hippie ass. Oh, bless you, man. He's going to do something brave. So, of course, because he's done this on film, it means he's actually... He does his death scene before he does anything else. Oh, I've just seen his pants. And the odd pube. I did on Cleaned Up, but that was... this is sort of silly, but it's John Pertwee doing, he's against the Minotaur. He's got a red cloak, so he does bullfighting. But that bit where he just steps to one side and the Minotaur runs through a wall. Doctor hasn't even bothered to look to see if Hippias is dead. He's fallen through some tinfoil that's had the sound of glass shattering. The Crystal of Kronos on videotape. Wow, that was quite an ambitious sequence. But I got a kick as a kid because I think I'd read about Myths and Legends, which is the title of the box set that this DVD is on. It's got very ghosting quality. I think it's been hard to clean up this one. It's not they could do with finding a better copy of the Time Monster. Because I think this one, is this done from a black and white film print that they put the colour over because the NSTC's not so good? It's a dog's dinner, put it like this, in terms of what they've had to do to restore the pictures. But I'd just direct you to the restoration team have done write-ups saying exactly Lord Krito's at the door again. He doesn't even get to come in. Oh, mate. It's all right, Derek. You'll shine in this scene. Open the door, bow, and shut it again. And you sort of go and you wait at home and you wait for that to be shown. And you go, well, yeah, you could. I mean, you could see me, Mum. Yeah, I mean, I was in that other scene, Mum. Didn't you see? An actor's life. It's really interesting, all the sort of different sources that the various Pertwee episodes have come from and how they decide if they've got multiple copies, because I do seem to think there's an engineering print or a black and white film print of episode 6 that they've, rather than reverse standards. I'm not gonna blather because it is written down somewhere by people that know what they're talking about, but it's certainly worth a look if you're interested in why some of these episodes look of varying qualities. This actually looks okay, but the scene in the Crystal of Kronos was very sort of ghosty and blurry. She's got fiery eyes. Ingrid Pitt. You can tell why she got cast in those sorts of parts, because it's the genuine article, the sort of fiery temperament. You know, you wouldn't mess with her. That's why I was a bit scared of her being on the commentary. But of course, now I go, well, it would have been a great honour to have met Ingrid Pitt, who's my goodness, if you've read her autobiography, the life, God, the terrible things she had to go through to get to be, you know, to get to where she got, would have certainly felled me, and probably felled most 21st century namby-pambys. So I salute Ingrid Pitt. She was a remarkable woman, and I shouldn't have been, nervous about meeting her. I should have put my nerves to one side. Well, it didn't matter. I didn't have a choice, but I would have benefited from meeting her. She seemed like a fascinating woman. But I think she had to swim for her life, didn't she? She escaped from a concentration camp, something like terrible stuff that she went through. This is the moment of beauty. Pertwee liked this, and it's interesting because is he talking about Campo Rinpoche, who comes at the end of his era? In which case, the old man that he's talking about is played by the same actor who's just about to come through the doors, King Dalios. So, which of course they couldn't have known at the time because Planet of the Spiders hadn't been written, let alone cast. But that's quite a nice bit of symmetry that the old man the doctoring is remembering has the same face and voice as the old man who's sadly about to be imprisoned with them. But this always reminds me of the remarkable Dennis Potter interview he did with Melvyn Bragg when he was dying and sipping on liquid morphine because he was in such pain. And he talked about looking at the blossom outside of his window, and he talks about it being the blossomist blossom. And Potter, for somebody who would fight and kick and bite, was also achingly sentimental, as often quite waspish men can be. And I think he did, and he was a very complicated man, and his dramas are full of those complications and his terrible contradictions of soppy romantic love and an absolute fear and disgust of women. He's a curious mix. But from a complex psychology, he had psoriasis. I have psoriasis. I know what it's like to be imprisoned in that painful prison. But I don't know if that he was a nice man, but he was a good writer. But that blossomist blossom is when Pertwee talks here about the daisiest daisy. And if John Pertwee, stuck in a prison cell in Atlantis, in a Doctor Who story that nobody loves that much, can remind me of Dennis Potter, that contradictory, difficult, angry, but sentimental, but nostalgic, but compassionate, erudite, but mean, that writer who's all of those things, then that can only be good. This is Melville Jones as the guard. Is this the Cyberman later on? Yeah, now you see, I don't think saying out of my way, it shows that for all Dalios being a wise old geezer, he's a bit of, he's the man, isn't he? He's the patriarchy, although he's being mean to another man in the guard. But showing your true colours there, Dalios. That you do being mean to the guard. Although the guard has the guard been ordered to kill him? Otherwise, he slightly exceeded his authority. Yes, we know you. We told you to imprison the king. How is he? But he called me slave, so I twatted him with my trident. That's what I was going to say. Tridents are also in great supply in the Atlantis of the Underwater Menace. So I suppose because Neptune, god of the sea, has a trident, so if you live under the sea, you're going to have a... Although this Atlantis isn't under the sea. But that's you see. That's called. Lord Creto is now doing staff stamping acting. Okay, so he's the door guy and the staff guy. Okay, that's reasonable. What's the part? Staff announcements and what staff announcements? What saying who's going to be guarding things and who's doing the work shift. No, staff as in banging a stick. The master looks great, doesn't he? Lord Master, yeah, yeah. He owns it, doesn't he? He carries himself off well in the court. But no, because they've all got tridents, and yet Atlantis hasn't gone under the sea. It's self-fulfilling prophecy, that. If you're going to deck yourself out in the accoutrements of the underwater, don't be surprised if you're consigned to the inky depths by a space-time budgerigar. That's all I'm saying. Oh, that crystal of... I wonder which crystal of Kronos the man has in his garage. Didn't even ask him. Another missed opportunity. Oh, yes, Doctor. Oh, no, Galea, you've been an absolute fool. Oh, this is really... this is really sad. She's really good in this. Oh.
Is this true? Is the Lord Dalios your king no longer alive?
Oh, dear. I sort of feel a bit... I like the fact that, yeah, she's... there's quite an age gap, though, isn't there? But she clearly loved him. That's really sad. But you have been a bit stupid, Queen Gilead. You are. And she survives, of course, doesn't she? Which is the sort of ultimate punishment. As everybody else, I think, dies, don't they? But Gilead's left to sort of rule her. Oh, I feel a bit sorry for Susan Penn-Halligan. We could have saved her. She's a very good actress. Bouquet of Barbed Wire. Got on to be one of our finest. She was in a Mark Gatiss Christmas Ghost Story a couple of years ago, wasn't she? Unrecognisable, but she's a terrific actress. I don't quite know how he's making all the stuff form from the ceiling, but this is great because as a kid, yeah, you've got the Minotaur. I loved, because I'd read about myths and legends, I loved the fact that the Minotaur turned up in Doctor Who. If there was anything that I already knew about in a Doctor Who story, that was great. And of course, the legend of Atlantis as well. It's like Pudding Lane at the end of the Visitation. Anything that you've learnt about at school that gets sort of... That's a great image of the... although she's not quite sure what to do, is she? I think I might have been quite generous when... Anyway... that's a great image of the, the woman who sold her husband down the river because she liked the handsome man with the beard. Why handsome stranger? Everybody dead around her as her world has got, it's a physical and metaphorical and actual. Yeah, so I suppose Kronos will have finished his work because he has to destroy Atlantis, doesn't he? He's very charming, the Master, but the body count he leaves behind. Yeah, no, he's good. He's good, Delgado. He keeps it going. Yeah, so I don't know where the story goes from here. So we've destroyed Atlantis. I do like the Master Centric. I, of course, have to choose something I like from each episode. there's good reasons for that. I think we live in very, very negative times. I find myself doing it. So I'm doing this as much for me as I am for you. I'm doing this for you. What am I doing for you? Talking rubbish at you. If anybody's watching this. Well, this could be the most pointless exercise ever. I could just be throwing stones at the moon. But if you are watching me, thanks for joining me. I hope you're having fun. I mean, I've thrown in some actor facts, haven't I? I've told you some sad stories. I like Joe's hair's quite... How have they done that? I mean, within the story, how have they done that to her hair? Because she didn't have that much hair. She didn't have that much hair when she left Earth in the 20th century. So is everyone Atlantis in a wig? Is that what they're saying? Did Hippias really have a sort of peroxide skinhead underneath? Because they've all got the similar sort of thing going on. And because Joe's got the same hair colour as Galea. Where did they all just get their hair from one woman? Is there a woman beneath the depths of Atlantis? It's Rapunzel, because it's all red hair. Rapunzel living at the bottom of Atlantis. Go on then. Braid that, stick it on your head. And Dave Prowse, who's the Minotaur and Darth Vader, he's an MB, isn't he? Because he's done a lot for charity and the Green Cross Code man. So this is one of the few classic Doctor Who stories that has somebody who has been honoured by the Queen. And I discovered what the earliest one was the other day. I discovered an actor that nobody would expect to have been awarded an honour in the New Year's Honours. And I bet you won't guess it now. But we'll do it when we get to that story. It's not even an actor you'd ever think about. And it was a real surprise to me. Anyway, I like digging out a fact. I just do it in my spare time, you know. If I'm supposed to go to bed, if I'm not doing this, I'll just go, I'm going to dig around and find out about that fella. And it's worth doing because, as I say, it was only when talking about this a couple of episodes ago that, you know, people that I said, oh, we can't find them. Well, we couldn't find them then, but you might be able to find them now. And having a refresh and just a reminder of, oh, God, you know, bears fruit, because tomorrow I am posting a letter to Wanda Moore. Let's see if she replies. I will have to wonder no more about whether she wants to talk about Doctor Who or not. But it could be that I get no reply, so we'll see. If she does reply, I will read her letter at the end of this or something. Do it as a bonus. That's So yes, of course, they've landed in... we're going to get the face of Kronos, aren't we? Which I seem to recall is quite a witty moment. And I believe it was the director's idea to have it have Kronos as a beautiful young woman rather than some Wizendal traditional godlike sort of thing. But it was an uncharacteristic lapse at the start of the episode, wasn't it? That Minotaur scene was a funny old thing. Although it looked good, but when you're on film, you've got much more control. So, yeah. But that said, I don't think I finished. It's a very Doctor Who thing to do, to go, oh, it's a Minotaur, I'll do it like a bullfight, and it's the Doctor with his red cloak. I even though it wasn't brilliantly staged, that's a witty idea. It amuses me. And Pertwee can do it. Pertwee can do things that other people cannot do. Pertwee can do things that if I tried to do them, I'd look like a twat. Yes, you usually look like a twat. Yes, thank you, everybody at the back. Yeah, yeah, this gives the ending a slightly different quality, having it sort of accomplishes that thing of the multifaceted nature of anybody, but also, you know, a time god, a time god, a time gobbling intergalactic budgerigar. But I think Kronos is a is a good. God, I've got to think of two things for this. I've got to think of two things for this, because there's episode 6 and the bonus thing. Now, some people don't like the way that Delgado acts this final scene, but I've always thought it was okay. It will be interesting to see what I think of it now. And I love that image of, again, the... Yeah, hang on, he's doing this. No, that's fine. That's fine. He's begging for his life, even though we later find out he's being a bit sneaky about it. It's fine. And I love the fact that, well, I mean, the fact that the Doctor always spares the Master, who then goes on to kill gazillions of people. It does make you sort of complicit, Doctor. It makes you slightly responsible. Anybody that the Master kills after you've gone, could you spare him? It's sort of on your hands, and you might need to account for that. Well, but the third Doctor spends his whole era moving towards atonement, though, doesn't he? That's what's very clever about his journey, if you like, is that we go, oh, he's a bit of an arrogant, he's a bit vain, he's a bit vain, he's a bit full of himself, and he gets punished for that. Yeah, you screwed up there, Doctor, really. Baby Benton. Now, this was reshot because the original baby, called Nicholas Mutton, was fired. So when they shot this bit, they'd shot it with shot. They'd shot the other bit with a different baby, and they got Darren Plant, bless him, who died at 15 months. That's awful. No parent should ever outlive their child, but how sad. But yeah, the original baby, Nicholas. But I did actually spend some of a couple of nights ago, trying to find Nicholas Mutton. What would I have said? Can I interview you about getting fired from Doctor Who as a baby? Do you remember anything about it? I've asked stupider questions, to be honest, of people I've tracked down. But yeah, is that the best footnote in Doctor Who's history to have been Nicholas Mutton, the baby who was sacked? What? And we haven't got the foot. I wonder what he could have done so wrong. I mean, I've seen some grown-ups, but I mean, in this very story, there are some performances. Was he really worse than Aidan Murphy? Oh dear. And they've unfrozen the unit lot. So the Brigadier is free. I've just seen a boom. But is that because the restoration's given us more of the picture? So Tom Tit has gone tits up. And we're about to... I know what's going to be one of my favourite bits, because I love this ending. I love anything that gives Benton a bit of a moment. And he gets... This is the season end, isn't it? So this is the joke that ends the entire year's worth of, or the entire block, the entire season. I used the correct word first. I don't know why they came up with two others that were unnecessary. Sergeant Benton waking up in a nappy. I think we should have seen more of him from the front. I love that ending because I love Sergeant Benton. That's great. I like the Time Monster. I think I don't think it has the best of its time in Atlantis. I think it's hamstrung by a couple of aspects of Atlantis. But the very presence of Atlantis in the story makes the story more interesting, and at this period in the show's history, when there's a lot of 20th century Earth and labs and offices and things, I think look, I'm not going to pretend I've invoked Dennis Potter today. I'm not going to pretend it's on a par with Pennies from Heaven, but it does what it's supposed to do, which is cheer me up a bit, give me something to talk about, give me something to think about, give me new things to look at, and it's got plenty of Doctor Who-y stuff in it. It's got plenty of things to enjoy. But what are my things to enjoy? What did I like? Well, I like the ending. I like Sergeant Benton in a nappy. That's quite a strange order, isn't it? I'd like 2 rounds of Sergeant Benton in a nappy, please. And I suppose I like, although actually looking at it this time, she wasn't quite sure where to look or what to do with herself, Ingrid Pitt. But I that sort of image of the destroyed Atlantis, and the fact that the last person standing is actually the person whose duplicity was responsible for it all was a very nice touch. So yeah, last queen standing, and Benton in his nappy are my 2 things. What are Alex Moore's favourite thing about episode 6 and favourite thing about the story, full stop?
My best thing about episode 6 has to be Atlantis itself, because it looks like some sort of RSC production or any other BBC period drama of the day. It's the BBC at its best, and I think it looks wonderful. Tim Gleeson, I think, did a brilliant job. And my best thing, well, trivia about the Time Monster, is that the Knight in part 3, played by Greg Powell, had previously been a Auton policeman, but he's now an incredibly well-respected stuntman and coordinator, but this was one of his earliest jobs. For me, the Time Monster is an often overlooked story, and of course, who knew that Kronos had such good eyeliner?
Oh, and he's gone for a bit of trivia, because sometimes that is a nice thing about watching Doctor Who. It's not just what's going on screen; it's the story behind it. And yeah, Gregory Powell is a hugely experienced stuntman with so many films on his CV, and he's earned some of his stripes on Doctor Who, because the BBC, and rightly so, it's what it should be, a training ground for all those great creatives who are now, as I record this, being told to retrain and get another job. So I've got another job. It's becoming a podcaster and video viewathon guy. No, that's just what I'm doing in lockdown, because one of the few things I can do is talk out loud about Doctor Who. So I'm doing it. I hope it's useful to you. I hope it's diverting or interesting, or just makes you watch it and go, God, I'm glad I'm not him. Anyway, thanks for joining me for the Time. I think if we can do the Time Monster, guys, I think we can do anything. I think it's going into things with the right, embracing them on their own terms. And I know this is a comic, because sometimes you can be, not just to you, you've seen it happen to colleagues who are very good. If somebody's come in determined to not enjoy it, they won't enjoy it no matter what you do. And that's a lesson I try and learn myself when I open my eyes and can't face the day or whatever, or think, oh, this is, they don't like me, or this is bad, or whatever. Well, that's all in there. So actually, the thing, it's easy to do with Doctor Who, to just go, actually, I'm going to watch this on its own terms and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to try and do that with life as well, and lockdown and everything that's being chucked at us. It's hard sometimes, but embrace it. And we've embraced the Time Monster, and it's been okay. So, and I've had 2 videos arrive today for stories that I've got loads of really good things to talk about. So we're going to be all right. Thanks for joining me. I hope that was all right. Sorry about the bits that weren't. They're going to be inevitable in something that's not edited or censored. Anyway, I'm off to beddy byes. Good night. Thank you very much for listening to Happy Times and Places, which is presented by me, Toby Hadoke, and my special guest this time around is Alex Moore. He can be found on Twitter at AlexMoore99. That's ALEXMOORE, Alex Moore 99. My thanks to him and to the many patrons who make these podcasts possible. They include Ruben Herfindahl, Peter Burns, Peter Harness, Rob Leonard, Stephen Moffat, Richard Straw, Nick Tedston, David Anonymous, another David Anonymous, Jenny at Bluebox 99, Paul Carrington, Paul Cook, Richard Chalk, Peter Crocker, Rob Dawson, John Deere, Chris Dunford-Kelk, Jason Gorman, Paul Dunn, Siobhan Galichon, Ian Key, Joe Llewellyn, Darren Mackay, Adam Parker, Barry Platt, Luke Adkins, Peter Adamson, Kevin Ashelford, and Will Brooks. The music for this podcast is by Dave Gates and the artwork by Dylan Patterson. If you would like to join that list of patrons, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Toby Hadoke for as little as £3 a month, and you can even get a 10% discount on that if you sign up for a year. You will get advance releases, bonus material, exclusive material. Even from the bottom tier, you get most things, and you're certainly 6 months ahead with Happy Times and Places in terms of what comes out when it comes out on iTunes and places like that. But there's also exclusive access and questions and fun and a little community there. So that's at patreon.com/Toby Hadoke for as little as £3 a month, and it goes up. Oh, I mean, you can go up to $1 million if you want. I'm not going to lower my horizons for the sake of bashfulness. You can also, if you don't want to do the monthly subscription, but occasionally feel like throwing something my way as a freelance artist whose only way to bring in income is to do this sort of cap-in-handedness. So I apologise for the excessive pluggage, but it's the way things are done these days. So, and one of those ways is ko-fi.com/Toby Hadoke, where you can give as much or as little as you like, as often or unoften as you like. So patreon.com for the sort of full subscription with bonuses, ko-fi.com for a passing, a drive-by donation. Or, and I know times are tough, if you're unable to contribute financially, you can just go online to iTunes and give these a 5-star review. That really helps. Yeah, in fact, 5-star reviews, bit of social media, all of that sort of stuff is very, very useful to make, these little podcasting baubles shine all the more brighter in the internet display window. And you can also come and see me live if you want to berate me in person for this sort of thing at Excess Malarkey Comedy Club in Manchester, 9 p.m. every Tuesday, and on the first Sunday of every month at twitch.tv/Excess Malarkey. Oh yeah, and I wrote to Wanda Moore. I found her. I wrote to her. I know what she's called now. I know what she does now. I even know her opinions on Brexit. But what I didn't manage to do was get a reply. So, reader, I didn't marry her or even get a signed photo. And I did enclose a stamped addressed envelope. So there we go. We can only do what we can do, eh? But I was all enthused. I found her. That's brilliant. And then it turned out not to have been worth the effort. But, well, it was worth the effort because I tried. And if you don't try, you don't succeed. Sometimes if you do try, you don't succeed. I do quite a lot of not succeeding and quite a lot of trying. And I understand, for those of you that have listened to nearly 3 hours of my voice, very, very trying. I'm so sorry.